Well, I was raised up by a simple man. I grew up with a gun in my hand. Taught me how to love and how to fight. Taught me what's wrong, taught me what's right. Said you don't have a choice to choose. You do what you can and don't ever lose. Just remember, even when I'm dead and gone, stick to your guns, son. Make me proud. Don't never back up. Don't never back down. Stand your ground and always tell it like it is. Yeah, this life's gonna be real damn tough. You take them scars and you call that bluff. Don't let me catch you fitting in, 'cause everyone's an outlaw until it's time to do outlaw shit. Well, the times are changing, but not for me. I got my own home now and a family. 2 Calisthans and some old work boots. Busted my ass, paying my dues. Tell my kids every night, try to see the world through your neighbor's eyes and make a difference if you can. Stick to your guns, son. Make me proud. Don't never back up. Don't never back down. Stand your ground and always tell it like it is. Yeah, this life's gonna be real damn tough. You take them scars and you call that bluff. Don't let me catch you fitting in, 'cause everyone's an outlaw until it's time to do outlaw shit. Stick to your guns, son. Make me proud. Don't never back up. Don't never back down. Stand your ground and always tell it like it is. Yeah, this life's gonna be real damn tough. You take them scars and you call that bluff. Don't let me catch you fitting in, 'cause everyone's an outlaw.
Welcome to the Split Line Off-Road Podcast.
Brought to you by Magna One Motorsports.
Are you ready to go GNCC Racing?
Look at these guys. Oh, boy, we got it wheel to wheel right here. String. Oh, and Stu Baylor right behind him.
Russell going to try to dive bomb down to the inside. No, can't get the line he wants.
National champion Jordan Ashburn. I appreciate it, man.
This is the Split Line Off-Road Podcast.
From Magna One Motorsports. Here's your host, Rodney Cooper, and co-host Brandon Whitehair.
Did you see him?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Split Line Off-Road Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rodney Cooper, and with me today, as always,
Brandon O'Hare, guys. What is up?
it is episode 107. We are back, ready to talk the general GNCC. We got a special guest in studio. Got Devin, the, what's his name again? Dr. D? Mr. D?
Producer D.
Over there on the keys.
Man, this is a tough place.
Double D.
Yeah.
You know.
But before we introduce our guest, we're going to get right into our sponsors. First and foremost, we got to thank Magna One Motorsports. If you need a used bike, if you need a helmet, goggles, gear, and you're at the GNCCs or the NEPG events, make sure you go over to the Magna One truck and check them out. Also, make sure you check out the Magna One's Clean It revolutionary cleaning product that you can use for your dirt bike, your ATV, your mountain bike, truck, trailer, anything. Make sure you get it clean with the Magna One Clean It. Also, go check out Guts Racing. Since 1985, they've been a leader in seat innovation and technology. Style or performance, Brandon?
Performance, baby.
Oh, not style this time?
Tricked you,
You did trick me. Because usually, like,
I
you know,
know.
us
I
old
do.
guys, we like the...
I like the style.
We like the style.
But I like performance, too.
All right, make sure you guys get on a Guts Racing seat cover, and you won't regret it. Also, make sure you get some seal savers. If you're anything like Devin, hard on your equipment, make sure you save the seals.
If you're anything like Sunday's race last weekend.
Oh yeah, I don't know what could have really helped there.
Yeah, Steel Sabers for sure.
That was a pretty rough weekend. But you can use a discount code SPLITLINE, capital S, to save 25% on anything over at the Steel Sabers website. And then make sure you also go check out Sunstar Chain and Sprockets.
Mm-hmm.
What are those things made out of, Brandon?
Case hardened steel, baby.
Case hardened steel. They are the best material when it comes to GNCC racing. Put it through hell and come out on the other side. How many seasons did you put on one chain and sprocket set?
It's got to be at least 4.
At least four at this point in time. Yeah. So you can save by using the discount code SPLITLINE30 to save 30% off of anything on their website. So make sure you guys check that out. And then after you guys get all that on your bike, head on over to the Mountain State Hare Scramble Series and check out their awesome courses and events. Richie Nolan and the gang over there, they put on a great family-friendly atmosphere, and it's really a fun time. The first race is coming soon. Go check out their
next weekend, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Either this weekend or next weekend.
25th and 26th.
That's next weekend. Yeah. Yep. So they have it posted. So make sure you check that out on their social medias. All right, let's get into it.
Who do we got in studio?
We got special guest, old friend, legend of the sport,
legend of the sport, OG.
Mike Lancaster. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. How y'all doing this evening?
Doing pretty good, man. Thanks for coming in tonight, hanging out with us. Those of you who don't know, like us and Mike have been good friends for quite a number of years.
A year or so.
Couple years. So
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. It has been a long time since we were hanging around Mike when he was having his XC2 days, his heydays in
way
the
before
XC2
that.
class.
Way before that.
Well,
he was motoing before he was XC2, man.
True, but I wasn't around then.
I think Brandon
was,
probably knows me a little bit longer than you do.
Yeah.
You came, I want to say, probably around 08 in that era.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
He knows me from like 04 era.
Mike was like one of those OGs, like would travel to the motocross races, sleep in his truck, and kind of like a Zach Osborne story, just pitching the tent wherever. And
I couldn't afford the tent.
That's
like
right.
I don't see what the issue is with sleeping in your truck.
That's
start
brutal,
it up,
boys.
you'll stay warm.
That's brutal.
I really went like all out too. I bought a DVD player for the front of it, so when I could watch a little bit of TV as I kicked back.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, man.
You miss those motocross days, those 3-day weekends?
No, I don't. I don't miss the 6 o'clock shower with the pressure washer out of a barrel.
Yeah,
and man, it just those weekends just they drug on so long, and like compared to GNCC, you show up, Thursday night, you practice Friday, you prep bikes, you go out, you race one moto on Saturday for 4 laps.
Yeah.
And you spent, $200 and you broke down on the first lap. It just made for such long weekends, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then when did you actually make your full switch over to XC?
I think 06, I got hooked up with the Phillips brothers and a kid from Summersville, and they talked me into going and trying a cross country race. And of course, instead of being smart and just borrowing a bike or doing something like that, I went all out and built a complete race ready bike, and went to an old group. I think it was Mid-Atlantic Racing, and went to Summersville for my first one, liked it, and then I went to Kentucky for GNCC for my second one.
Nice. So just jumped right into the deep end.
Right in. I started in B class because I was running B at the MX Nationals, and a little bit of a learning curve the first race, but second race I was right there top 5, and then I got the hang of it a little bit, and we hung out there the rest of the year, and then moved to A and just kind of wandered on up the ladder from there.
Nice. Yeah, and then we talked about your days in the XC2 class, a top runner in the XC2 class as well, and then now we're full-time motor building, not full-time, but like full-time, part-time.
Well, as long as we feel like doing it.
Yeah.
Of course, being a dad, you got other things to do sometimes, and the wife gets super angry when you're in the garage all the time. So I really enjoy it. I love being a part of the GNCCs. I love it's just a family atmosphere. I want my kids to grow up there. So if I can keep my name kind of around the pits and going and get my kids into it, just keep on doing that. So if it causes me doing some motor building or some bike building, I enjoy that. And man, you get to meet so many great families and just great people. So
and I'm sure you get a lot. It's rewarding. I mean, one of your riders finished in the top 20 this weekend.
Yeah, I have a couple guys out there now. I do a couple different motors for people, but one of my main focuses this year was the two Hickey brothers. Me and their dad get along. George, he's a good guy, man. We get along really well, and the kids, they're good. They're good kids, man. And that's, to me, that's a lot of it. They stay out of trouble, and they're very driven, and they want to go out and do well, and it's starting to show. So we're getting there. Chance, we're still working out some kinks. He's got a few things he's still getting together. But Dayton, man, he's first year in the PM race, and we're slowly moving where we want to. Me and his dad talked a lot in the off season, and his dad wanted to put him in college B so bad. And I was like, no, he's ready for A class. And he's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, let's go A. And I texted him this weekend. I was like, remember when you wanted to put him in B class? So now they're good kids, man, and they try hard. And I think both of them have great potential, and honestly, I'm really hoping for that 1-2 finish this year. And of course, the brotherly bragging rights.
Oh yeah,
So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Brandon.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you do in fantasy this weekend?
Which fantasy? We only got three of them.
Well, let's do our rundown real quick before we get into our guests. We got to do our rundown through our fantasy real quick. But tonight we're going to have on Brycen, Neal, and we're also going to have on Craig DeLong. It's cool to have on Brycen and Craig. Both won the overalls this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Brycen 3 in a row, and Craig his first win overall. So it's cool to get that kind of perspective. But before we get to them, we got to get our fantasy rundown real quick. Brandon, you got that Rocky Mountain up?
Over at Rocky Mountain, guys, we got on, of course, 50. Adam Verostic 770 in second. Jay Groff 660. I think Mike knows Jay Groff pretty well. In third, Guthrie 441 in fourth. B Trucker 69 is in fifth. Cameron 7 is in sixth. Jay's is in seventh. W Mad Dog is in eighth. Wade Walton is in ninth. And rounding out the top 10, Austin 147.
All right. Then over in the Pulp and Mex side, I believe you play this, don't you?
Yeah.
Mike plays the Pulp. It's and he knows the frustrations too, because it's nothing but frustrating.
I don't remember putting Mike in for our fantasy. What's up with that? He plays Pulp, but don't play ours.
Oh.
The
real fantasy.
He's like, what?
Sorry.
It's too close to home. Finishing first this weekend was a good friend of ours, Mr. Poopy Bud. It's hard to,
these guys.
He told me, he's like, you're going to say my name. And I was like, I refuse.
I refuse.
Finishing second is H-Bomb 434. Third is Mason Seal Savers. Fourth is Kyler Murray. Mike, you finished fifth this weekend. Tian Williams finished sixth. Backflipping 336 seventh. KTM Rider eighth. Dark Side ninth. And Let's Go Brandon finished 10th. I just been sending it since I missed Daytona.
Oh yeah.
So
now you're really falling down.
I know. I'm just really like I went for both first to finish lines this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not something I would typically do, but
that was my downfall this week. I missed both of them. If I would just got one of them, I would have been way up there.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. It's one of those things. If you take one, you almost feel obligated to take both.
I think Nazi, or not Nazi, but I can't remember how you spell it, but said starts with an N. It's like Natsek or something. I don't know. He screwed me. That was one guy.
Well, I put all my eggs in Chase's basket because I was like, hometown race for him.
I thought
He's
for
going to
sure.
be fired up. He's going to come out swinging and nothing. And then I like to throw a crazy one in the 250 just every now and then. And man, I've picked the guy twice, and both times he's come in second to the I'm like,
Oh, man.
I think both of my guys came in second this week as well. Yeah, so terrible.
Yeah.
Then over on the split line fantasy, the most important fantasy, Mike, you need to be playing this one as well.
Jeez, Mike.
Billy Bebot took the win this week with 222 points, which is a pretty high point score, and I'm going to get to that here in a second. Groff was pretty mad at me about that.
Yeah.
Austin Hertz took second. Tyler Ticknell took third. Michael Aldridge took fourth. And Joni Wilson took fifth in the season point standings. Actually, Billy Bebot took the lead. Now, he was the one that was putting heat on you last year.
Yeah.
So you're not quite there in that leaderboard.
I'm coming,
right now.
baby. I'm
yeah,
coming.
Okay.
I'm coming. Up to sixth. I'm up to sixth.
He's in the lead. Chris Stable is in second. Tyler Ticknell's in third. Nathan Cox is in fourth. And Austin Hurst is in fifth. Now, so this week, I made a mistake.
Yep.
Johnny G ended up being a 22 handicap.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't have happened. That was my bad. He dropped out of the top 20 overall.
Yeah.
And it just flew under my radar.
We're going to start putting a committee together.
I know. We need a committee together. I told Groff this as well. He needs to be a part of it.
Yeah.
We need a committee together so we don't miss stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, I missed it. So if you missed Johnny G as a 22 handicap, I'm sorry. It ain't going to happen again.
I can't believe I didn't catch it.
I know. I didn't catch it either. I missed it as a administrator of the game, and then I also missed it as a player of the game.
I don't play it, of course, but I do try to keep an eye on who's on the leaderboard. And I think Ross just mad because I saw his name way down there on the leaderboard.
Yeah, he I like to rub it in on Groff. Goff. Shoot, I can't even talk. But I like to rub it in on him a little bit every now and then.
He takes it very seriously.
He takes it very serious.
Well, he kind of reminds me of like the Dan Truman. You've heard the stories of Dan Truman at the Supercrosses. Like if he picked you in fantasy, you can basically get whatever you want for your bike because he's going to somebody's trailer and he's getting what you need. So when we were in South Carolina, Gross got his phone out, of course, and he's like, I need him in the top 20. He's like, get over there. He's like, give him a line. So he's like, got me over there pointing his guys' lines. And I'm like, I was like, who is it? And he's like, you know him. He's like, I got him. He's a 22. He's like, he's sitting in 21st overall. He's like, I need him up to 20.
I love it.
I'm like, all right, I'll help you out.
He's not the only one. Someone sent us a message and saying that now, since we're watching like the live races, they're actually watching the overall top 20 really closely because of the game now. So,
and that was our goal. Like Mike and I talked about it before you guys came, because you guys showed up like 5 minutes before the show starts. We were talking about how like the goal with the game was to try to get more attention to the guys that finished in the 20 to 15 range.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of doing that. So,
which is good because you guys know top 20 is no slouch anywhere you're at. I mean, you're in the top 20, you're moving along pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to, like me and you talked with Paul, like you're watching guys that nobody knows, but you're throwing stuff at the TV, screaming at them like, let's go. And so it's good that you're getting like the lower names. People are wanting to pick them and put them up there.
Right.
So,
Now the next goal is to have riders start thinking like, man, like I have guys that have me on their team. I need to get in the top 20.
Yeah.
That's
well, to me, it's also good because like your name's going to get out there a little more. And I know from personal experience that once I started doing well, my name got out there, you get a little more help.
Mm-hmm.
And a little more help goes a long way. I went from sleeping in my truck and Peg Phillips bringing me breakfast at 7:30 in the morning to, full blown people buying my bikes. And it showed I went from, barely finishing the top 20 in XC2 to a podium here and there and fighting up front with the big boys. So
yeah, it takes a lot, man. People that always look outside the sport, I'm like, man, you don't realize how much money and effort and time it takes to put it all together and do it every weekend. And it's just crazy.
It's tough. I mean, these races are every other weekend, but it's like, man, there is not much time in between them.
Especially if you tear something up, like it's
every other weekend. Like we got locals in between these things. Like you don't really get a break.
Well,
and then
you didn't like running locals, did you? Because of the time it took.
Well, family and stuff. I mean, I ran some here and there. I never did like a full series with anybody. I would just show up if there was one close enough that I felt like going to. I would go to it, but usually we're robbing parts off the practice bike to make the national bike go, and it's like, oh, well, we'd like to go, but we stole the engine out of it. So
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So, hey guys, remember we have a Sunstar Channel Sprocket segment, shifting gear segment coming up. So if you have any questions, we already have a decent bit on the internet, but
on the internet,
on the interweb,
on the line,
on the line.
Oh, hey, I forgot to mention I already mentioned it on Instagram, but the Moose goggles, we gave those away to Billy Bebop. He's already won a few things from us, so Billy enjoy the goggles as well. And are we going to give this away tonight?
I don't know. Are we?
I don't know.
Is it tonight?
Do you want to give it away another night?
I say we'll give it away to the next winner.
To the next winner? Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
But they have to have something that'll fit on.
Do they make quad? Do they make quad?
I don't know.
No, they don't. No. All right.
Yeah, that's why I said that.
I got you. Oh well.
Okay, so we're going to kind of shift gears real quick. We're going to get Brycen Neal on here in just a minute, but real quick before we get him on, man, could he be having any more of a perfect season, Lancaster?
He's going to be so tough to beat this year. The kid, he's a thoroughbred. First of all, he's just man. He's chiseled. He's got the drive. He wants it, and it's gonna be tough for anybody. I personally want someone to step up just to make it a little more interesting, but at the same time, I race Brycen, and like it's good to see that somebody that I went toe to toe with for a while just waxing everybody else. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What percentage, if you had to give it a percentage, do you give him on possibly? I know it's early in the season.
Brycen's going to come on and I know he's listening right now, and he's going to be like, dude, don't jinx me like that, because I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, don't say it.
I know where you're going with this.
We do not want to be the people.
It's already been said though, so we won't be the first people to say it. But okay, does he have a chance? Does he have a chance? To what?
It's so tough. It's not because Brycen's going to fail.
Yeah.
It's just because you never know when that lapper is going to jump out, just like him and his knee. And you never know when that's going to happen. It's going to take you out of your race. It's nothing that he did.
Right.
It's no bike failure. It was just a racing incident. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that didn't Josh Strang get hit with a deer at Snowshoe one year? Just something like that.
Stuff.
Just something random to where, I mean, I'm pretty sure Josh was leading when he got hit with a deer, and I don't think he got to finish the race. Like, it took him over a mountain. So it just stuff like that. I'm hoping for the best. I would like to see, see it happen. But if it doesn't, you can't take nothing away from the kid.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So
especially these days with parts and everything. So yeah, you just never know.
Yeah. You ready to get
Let's
him on?
Get him on.
All right, man. We're going to go to commercial break, then we'll get right back on with Brycen Neal.
You've seen them at the track. Now, online. Magna1motorsports.com. From used bikes, just like Jordan Chase and the rest of the team ride. Plus, all the gear you need. Helmets, goggles, gear, and more. Magna1motorsports.com or trackside at GNCC and NEPG events. Be sure to pick up a bottle of Magna 1's Magna 1 Clean It, revolutionary cleaning product for your dirt bike. Coming soon. Join Chase Landers and Team Clean. Trackside for everything you need when you need it. And at your fingertips at Magna1motorsports.com. Magna 1 Motorsports and Magna1motorsports.com, your everything dirt bike headquarters.
Doug here from Sunstar Sprockets and Chains. I just wanted to take the time to thank you for listening to the Split Line Off-Road Podcast and for a great 2022 season. I look forward to meeting as many of you as I can on the GNCC circuit next year, which reminds me, Split Line has talked me into continuing with their discount code. All you need to do is go to our website, sunstar-braking.com, and use the code SPLITLINE30 to get 30% off your order. If you are not a Sunstar rider and you would like to be, then check out the Racer tab while you are there. If the link is active, then we are still accepting riders.
Hey guys, it's Mason with Steel Savers. If you've been listening to the show for a while or you've been around dirt bikes for a bit, you should know that Steel Savers makes the ultimate fork seal protection for your dirt bike. Not only do we have a full range of product for your dirt bike, we also have a variety of products for your side-by-side, for your mountain bike, for your quad, Be sure to check out our coil savers and CV boot savers for a double layer protection over your CV boot. Check out sealsavers.com and enter the code SPLITLINE for 25% off. That's sealsavers.com and the code is SPLITLINE for 25% off. Thanks for listening to the show.
All right, guys, we're back. And on the line, we have defending GNCC ATV champion and 3-time straight winner in 2023, Brycen Neal. Brycen, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, what's going on, guys? Glad to be here.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you on. Excited to get the chance to talk to you after, three in a row. Pretty perfect so far, right?
Yeah, we've jumped off to a great start, man. There's definitely no complaints on our end. We've we worked hard this winter and got with a new team, Phoenix Racing Yamaha, new engine package, a lot of new sponsors, and we're just proud to be able to showcase and come out swinging and be able to click all three for everyone who's in our corner who helps us out.
Yeah, man. There's been so far this season, we've not been able to make it to a race yet down that far south, but we've watched everything on Racer TV, and man, and I know you've heard this already a number of times, but you just look so smooth and so comfortable. It's extremely impressive.
It's funny you said that because Mason Rader, he's one who's been telling me that a lot too, and the inside joke we said it at the end of, I don't know, I think it was Florida, and my dad and me, we always talk about being smooth and easy. It's kind of like a little funny between us, but we're actually putting it to action this year, and I just feel at this point, I just feel like how do I say it? I've seen a lot of things. I got a lot of experience in my belt. I've been in a lot of different situations, and I know what I need to do on the bike, and I know what I got to do, and the bike is working so great for me. We're super happy with that DASA engine. The Hauser A-arms, the Oka shocks by Impact Solutions, the CST tires. We got such a solid program. The bike's clicking, it's working, and when everything's hitting on all cylinders like that, and a guy like me got some experience, it's a good combination.
Yeah, no doubt. And we used to talk about, Brandon and I used to talk about, man, like it was so much fun, and it still is fun to watch you. Like, don't get me wrong, but it was so much fun to watch. Like every time you got on the bike, it looked like you were trying to wring the neck off the bike. And then, like you said, now it's like smooth as fast, and it's just like real methodical, but you're pulling away at the same time.
Yeah. I remember because, at end of 2020, I started to get it, I started to really figure it out. And 2021, it was like records or checkers. Like, I did not care. I was like, I'm going to ride this thing for all it's worth. I don't care if I'm tired, whatever's going on. Like, if it's a little sketchy, I'm sending it. And that was kind of like what happened that year is we was literally records or checkers. We went for it. And, part of that is, I found that new speed, and I found that level, and I felt like, I was starting to really get it under my belt, but then we got hurt, with the injury, and I don't relate that to riding over my head or anything, trying to push too hard, but that, like we talked about before, it mellowed me out where I had time off. I came back and man, it felt like I matured. I figured out how to ride at that pace, at that level, that speed, and kind of, bring it down a notch and try to be smoother while also being, ultra fast. And it's time, like I said, whenever I first started figuring out that speed and trying to run it, it was feast or famine, like Mikey Wayne says, and it was all or nothing. But over the years, I've definitely, figured out how to try to be a little bit smoother, but there still are days where, we'll let it all hang out and we'll bounce off of everything like buckwheat last year on the last lap. I bounced off of everything and I let that thing eat.
Right. I'll tell you what's scary, Brycen, is they were already going just like fast enough, and you took it to a whole other level, and you're comfortable with that speed. And I'm sure Mike right here, Mike Lancaster, can tell a little bit more about it because he knows he's ran XC2 speed too. So
yeah, Brycen, Mike here. Yeah, we banged bars back in the day a couple times. I used to chase you around. You guys were always younger than me, and I envied that big time. But now I'm very impressed with how you've matured from even when I raced with you. Like, of course, different speeds, different things. I really like how you've learned to figure out how to save the bike, because a lot of people don't realize you can go as fast as you want to in the world, but if you can't bike, then you're never going to finish any. So you've learned to control the bike and not actually beat it off of everything, and yet you still be able to put in some just insane speed. It's fun to watch. I always give you the heck about I wish you were still on the Honda, but it's awesome to see, man. I like that this new team you're with. I like how you've kind of gelled right in there. You clicked in there. You got another fast guy on the other side of the sport there that you kind of get to look at and see that. And Joel Hetrick is another one of them guys just like you. He's so fast, and it's amazing to watch what you two can do on an ATV, because I never got to that level, but I wished I could have, and I think it's just awesome to see, man.
Man, Michael, I really appreciate the kind words, man. It's great to get to talk to you too. I mean, it's every time I get to talk to you, it's always seems like fast paced, and it just be so nice to sit down, have a beer and have Landon Wolf come over and talk about our XCT days, man.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Well, I mean,
those were the best days of racing, though.
And now you can always, you can always, I always tell you this every time I see you this, but you can always get up in the morning and come down to breakfast at the hotel, because me and your dad always meet at the breakfast thing. Every time I look over, there's Chris, and I'm like, hey, Chris, hey, Mikey, how you doing, buddy? And we sit there and talk, and I'm like, where's Bryce? Oh, he's still in bed. All right. So
these days you will catch me down there, because back in the day I was not a morning person. I was I was a late night owl, and then I'd want to sleep to the sun just till noon if I could. So now these days I get up a little bit earlier, so that definitely helps. But dude, those XC2 college A days, I mean, those were some of the best times of racing ever. Whenever it was just the pressures of money and time and working and blah blah blah, this and that. It was just more or less just a kid out there riding a four-wheeler, and that's all we knew. And it's so much simpler times, and it's kind of like talking about high school. You forget how easily a guy had it back then, in a sense, I guess you could say.
Yeah, 100%.
Those times were so much fun, and the people that we came up racing with, the SICC boys, Andy from Hilltop, all of them, Chad Jones and Landon Wolf, and everyone that Marshall Goings and that whole crew. I mean, we had some great times, great battles, such great people, and
we really did, man.
The years, it's like we've been racing for a long time, and some of the people we came up with racing aren't still here today, and there's new crowd and some new faces here and there, and some of the good old boys that we came up racing with just they moved on and they're not racing, and I'll always forever cherish those memories and those moments, because God, it was fun.
Yeah, it definitely was, man. And you threw out some names there that I can remember back in the day, because didn't always have a lot of help. I had a few people in my corner, pretty closed knit group, and you were throwing out Andy at Hilltop, man. I remember we raced Ironman in 2012, and it was just a muddy mess. And it was back when Ironman, before they brought all the rocks and all the pavement in and stuff, like we literally had a brand new truck, and they hooked a tractor to it to pull us into the end of the racetrack. And I remember I was leading for a while there, and one of your old buddies ended up getting me Braden Henthorn. And
Braden.
Yeah. Well, I blame it on Corbin Knox and at that time it was Angel. They were down in the woods somewhere, and she pointed me into a line, and it was not the line I should have. And luckily Corbin was there, and he got me out. But that's where Braden got me, and I just kind of rode by myself all day. And one of them deals that I come into a pretty good mud hole and I got stuck, and there was a guy standing there, and you're always just begging for help in those situations. And I look at the guy and I'm like, "Hey, sir, can you help me?" And he's like, "Listen, I'm going to get down there and I'm going to help you get out of there." He's like, "But don't get me muddy." He's like, "Don't spin." And I'm like, "All right, I got you." So he gets down and we're both kind of working on it. And I'm watching my throttle, to where I'm not throwing mud way in the air just because he's digging me out. And a guy that's not with us anymore, but I know you had a lot of battles with him, and I had some too. Pat McGuire just buried it right next to us. And man. Pat stayed in the rev limiter, and mud was going 30 feet in the air, and it covered that guy. And I looked at him and I was like, "Sir, I'm sorry." He's like, "Nope." He's like, "Come on." He's like, he pushed me up out of there, and he looked at Pat and he's like, "You're on your own." All right. I'm like, I'm out of here. So I ended up getting second, and man, it was so bad that people couldn't even get up to the podium. Like there was so much mud there. People couldn't get to the podium. And I looked around and there stood Andy, and he had one of them water fire extinguishers, and he's like, "You need some help cleaning up your bike?" And I was like, "I'd love it." He's like, "You've ran my stickers for a couple of years." He's like, "I got no problem." So he come over and cleaned up my bike and helped me get up on the podium. And I'll never forget stuff like that, man. Cause GNCC is definitely, it's a family environment. And you get like just relationships with people from different states that you don't talk to every day, but when you see them, man, they're your friends.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's cool to hear that stuff again.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool. It's so cool to get to hear like you guys talk about like the old days, and then back when I'm sure both at that point in time, both your guys' goals was like, okay, just to see how far you can get on that mountaintop. And like Brycen, like this past season, you reached the mountaintop, right? Yeah. I mean, and you're carrying that number one plate, and a lot of people say like, man, that number one plate's heavy, but it looks pretty light. It looks pretty light on you this year. How does it feel to go from being the pursuer and being the hunter to now being defender?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. Round one, I didn't feel like I came in with my best, light the world on fire. Had the fire in my eye and all that. Is whenever you take off racing for so long and you don't race for a few months, and it's hard to recreate those moments in those situations because you can't practice, you can't go to the local race. There's nothing that is like a GNCC. And every race you get under your belt from round 1 to 2 to now 3, you get better and better and more sharper, and you the interviews, the racing, everything. And round 1, I definitely did great. I got to the front early, rode a smooth, a clean race. But that number one plate, I don't feel like it's too heavy or anything like that. I look at it like it's a challenge. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the goal is to not be the only person in a long list of a lot of great legends to not back it up. And I remember Walker talking about that in 2015. That was his only goal, and that's my only goal at this moment in time. Is that's probably the heaviest thing on me is not the one plate, but not be the only guy in the last years to not be able to back it up. So that's what we're shooting for. That's the goal. We've worked hard this winter. We've got some great people. We've built a strong program on top of what we already had. And man, we're pumped. I mean, I'm swinging my leg over the bike. I'm smiling. I'm happy. When I'm going riding, whatever workload I got going on during the week, whatever's going on, whatever problems, practice bike giving me fits. Every other time I'm riding it, it's getting to the point where it's getting weak on me and getting a lot of time. And, issues are coming up every time I ride it. And I'm not getting upset anymore. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying being at the races. I'm enjoying riding my bike, and hope I'm going to keep on riding that wave and take it as far as I can.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, and it's like you said, that's something, being the one or being somebody that has to go in and be the defender of a title. I never really thought of how much weight that actually probably carries in itself. And just like you said, that sounds like that. I mean, that would be a heavy weight so you went from, I need to be the guy to like try to chase Walker and get my championship to now like, okay, now I have it. Now I have to make sure that I stay here too. So I'm sure that is heavy. But you mentioned that you did, you're over at Phoenix Racing this year. How was that transition? Like it looked, it came, I don't know if it came in late towards the end of the year, but we found out pretty close to the season starting. How's that been for you?
Oh man, it's been great. We's already all great friends. I knew David Eller for 2 or 3 years beforehand. His brother Wayne, we talked. We had already talked on the phone so many times. My dad and Wayne, myself and Wayne. We've already had so many laughs, so many memories and things over the years. We've kind of become close, and it just flowed. I don't know how to describe it. Just we're 3 races in, and it already just feels like we've been, together for way longer than just 3 races. And, to join underneath the tent with Joe Hetrick as my teammate, that is one bad dude on a 4-wheeler. And we was at practice track back in early February, late January, I think last week of January, first week of February, sometime around that. And I was just watching that dude rip around the MX track, and I was just like, damn. That guy is a bad man. Like, he is on riding a high level on that MX bike. I mean, he's throwing it wherever he wants, doing whatever he wants. And it was so cool to see him just laying it down. And it's so cool, I think, for, the ATV side of the world to have, 2 guys underneath the same tent, like Joel and like me. And I think it's really cool for a first time to have 2 number 1 plates of each discipline. And, DASA engines and exhaust, they brought me on this year, and we joined with them. And it's very cool as well as that, Joel, he runs DASA, and then Brad Briley, who runs the TT series, and he's the number 1 at that. He runs DASA. So, they have a strong overall package of MX, of TT, of GNCC, almost every discipline on ATV there is to offer. So, I've got in with some great guys, and it's just going real smooth. And man, I couldn't be more happy.
That I actually was going to ask you about that, Brycen. I know you're from Ohio, and me being from West Virginia, I know how hard it is to ride during the winter and different stuff like that. Did you spend quite a bit of time down around the Phoenix area, like the Phoenix's shop, and riding with Brycen and Joel, or did you still do your kind of your little thing?
Now, I only got to ride with Joel and Brycen one time, and that was, we did the photo shoot, and we did the photo shoot that day, and then we went riding, and we really only got to do that day. Joel and Brycen was down at Deckers pretty well the entire winter, leading up to the series almost. So we definitely all talked about that. We are going to get back together, whether it's an MX track, most likely an MX track, is I never get to ride MX at home. And every time I get to ride MX anywhere, oh my God, it's so much fun because it's so much different because I never get to do it. So we're going to get back together and do that again. But, mostly, I'm at home and throughout most of the winter, I got to go down to the Carolinas twice on 2 different weekends, but that was it.
Yeah. Huh. That definitely makes it tough. I remember in my days, and that was back before GNCC decided to mess up the schedule. I used to really enjoy. We would go down the week before Florida and ride for a week, and then we would do like the Durham town the next week and hit Georgia. But I always loved that week of Florida because we would get down there like on Friday night, and then Saturday we were racing somewhere, Sunday riding somewhere. And then it seemed like every night there's a motocross track down there that's open, and all of us cross country boys would just go take over it. And it was really cool to see just like how well different people can ride in different disciplines. I rode a lot with Gabe Phillipson, and Chris Bithell was around. And it was funny because Bithell never rode an ATV at any of the motocross track. He would go ride his dirt bike, and he would literally be the fastest dirt bike out there every week. And I'm like, why are you on a 4-wheeler? Like when you're this fast on a dirt bike, he's like, oh, I like racing my quad. And I'm like, all right. But it was cool to see that. And of course it's a lot easier on machine, but got to hang out with just a lot of different people. Back then, Josh Epperman hung out with that crew a lot. And just to see he was such a cool dude, man. And the boy from Texas, I'll think of his name here in a minute.
Pat Brown.
Not Pat Brown, but
Thomas Brown.
Thomas Brown.
Yeah.
Thomas Brown would show up, and it's amazing to watch how fast those guys are on a motocross track.
my
Because
gosh.
you guys know me back in my motocross days. I wasn't a slouch, but I wasn't extremely fast either. So I watch those guys and I'm like, how in the world? So I'm sure Brycen gets a little bit of a backseat when he sees Joel go out there, just because Brycen by no means is a slouch at all, but watching Joel go around that track at Daytona, he won by what? 13, 14 seconds. That's just on, an 8-time champion. Right. That's just, it's amazing. So.
Right. Yeah.
And he celebrated very, very good with that. He came across the finish and just put his hands up like, where's everybody at?
I was wondering if there was some trash talking going, because I don't know Joel personally, but I know Joel I know Joel back when he rode for Can-Am, and we were in his trailer at Durhamtown and stuff like that, and we hung out. And Joel was always just one of the guys that you could approach, man. He'd talk to you like a regular human being, and hung out with him quite a bit. And he was always just a really mellow guy. And then when I watched Daytona, I saw him come across the line, and it was like he had a vendetta for somebody. I was like, I don't know who he's mad at, but he proved his point. So
you're exactly right. Like when I first met Joel at the Yamaha Night of Champions, Brooke and me, we hung out with Joel and his wife Carly pretty well the whole night, because pretty well the only people we knew there. And man, we talked about so much. But that's my first really feeling. He's just a super humble, just good dude.
Yes,
and then getting to hang out with him down there at Phoenix, at the shop and stuff. That dude is awesome. But when he puts that helmet on, he means business. He is a bad man on that bike. And it's hard to look good on an MX track when Joel Hetrick's out there. I'll tell you that.
That's for sure. Hey, Brycen, real quick, last question I have for you. I know you're short on time, but do you feel like this year, since that number 1 plate's on, do you feel like people are kind of racing you a little bit differently this year?
I don't think so. I think that it's been the same. I don't feel like anyone has raced me differently, but it's no, I really don't. As of right now today, I think I can probably say that no, I don't think that anyone has, but because I think back, Buckwheat last year, no one gave me anything at that racetrack. I was 5th, Walker was in the lead, and as the, fever pitch of the championship had to be me and him mano a mano, and nobody gave me nothing, passing through the pack twice. So, and this year the same, I know Jared, he did pull over for me at Florida, but there is strategy with that type of stuff.
He's hoping probably to hook onto you, right? That's what I was thinking.
And that's what he did hook on to. We never talked about that before the race or anything like that at all. Me and Jared were friends, but on the racetrack we respectively race each other. But if he can run it on me, he's going to do it, and the same for me as well. And I think that he didn't like me being so early on in the race, kind of like on him in a way, and I think he just wanted to see what I was doing and see my lines, and I think it pulled him I think plus 20 seconds 25 seconds ahead of the next group battle. So I think that's just how that worked out. But I don't think anyone's given me I think it's the same to still racing this year as what it was last year.
I've always wondered with that too, like you see the number 1 coming behind you. And I've always wondered, like, man, I wonder if these guys try to wick it up when they see the number 1 come behind him. Or it's probably one of two things. Either try to wick it up and see how long you can stay in front of Brycen, or
I think the strategy kind of goes the other way. Like Brycen said, it's almost like just try to, especially if Brycen catches you so quickly. And Brycen will actually get a kick out of this. The guy that was leading you for a little bit this weekend, and Josh Merritt, it seemed like when I raced Josh, if I caught him, Josh would turn around and see it was me, and he would immediately just pull over. And at Ironman, he was in the lead and immediately just pulled over. And I got pulled up beside him. I'm like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, you go." I'm like, "All right." And after the race, I talked to him. He was like, "Man," he's like, "you caught me out of nowhere." He's like, "I didn't have a pace." He said, "But when you went by me," he said, I found a different gear. He said, I felt more comfortable. And I'm the same way. Like if I'm riding by myself, I've got a certain pace I do by myself. But if somebody catches me, then all of a sudden I find a little bit more, and I try to hang on. And it may, like you said, 25 seconds, 30 seconds a lap is a lot.
Yeah.
So
it's wild to see what you guys can do together versus, when you're only on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That, and there is, there's the kind of an unwritten rule, like a gentleman's agreement. I guess you could say that, if there's a guy in the lead and, he checked out from the guy who's in second, and the guy who's in third rose up from the guy in second, and he's obviously, all over him trying to get around, and the guy in the lead's out of sight. It's kind of like a thing throughout the years where it's like, hey, it's early. If it's the last lap, that's one thing. But if it's like the first lap, hey, I'm going to see what this guy's going to do. I'm going to see what he's doing, see if I can latch on to him, see if he can pull me to the front, or just see his lines and see what he's doing. Or I'm not going to, hold him up. If he's really got the pace to track him down and do it, that's kind of what happens sometimes whenever you see a guy pull over for early in the race like that.
And that's why you guys have made this sport so daggone fast, because you keep being so nice and pulling over each other, then just pulling each other to these insane speeds.
Oh shoot!
Right.
Yeah, buddy.
What?
I was going to say, yeah, you're good. Good.
Oh, well, it's just, man, it's fast racing. Like this past weekend in Georgia, that was a GP. That was exactly like fast tracks down in Ohio.
Oh yeah.
We had ribbons on both sides. There was no tight, twisty chicanes except for the finish line. I mean, the entire track was just all systems go, rock and roll. I mean, very tight passing. Nowhere to really get off the track because it's like landmines. They had so many stumps and logs and things. And on the first lap, there was still a little bit of debris in the track. And I don't know how many people, if you went up and down the morning and asked how many people got a stick in their front A-arms or, caught up in them. When I was in third behind Hunter, he kicked up 2 or 3 sticks, and I kept on wanting to creep up on him and, try to get close to make a pass. But man, there was 2 or 3 times where like a stick would just pop up just right. And it just scared the hell out of me. Cause it's like that's all it takes for, to puncture a radiator, to get jammed in your bike, it twists something or wreck you, or or you have to hop off and grab it and pull it out. So the track was just different. It was all around just a high speed GP race, and I had fun with it. At the very end, my consensus was just, it was different. Don't get me wrong. And I know a lot of people, probably didn't like it, or maybe some people did, but at the end of the day, I did enjoy it because it was just something so different. We don't get to do it at GCCs every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure you guys were glad that it wasn't a day later too.
That too. Oh my God. Those guys got, man, oh my God. Like, Mason Raider, whenever he put on his story, that to come all the way over from the pit section to the starting line, it's I don't know, it's probably got to be between a half mile to a mile long from the finish line all the way over, something like that. And the only road to get there, I'm seeing a truck, almost over his tires, driving in water to get to the start.
Wow.
Like, imagine a dirt bike dude just like cruising to the start and just happens to lay it over. Don't even make it to the first point of the race. It just swallows his bike there.
It's not a GNCCT. You can't make it to the starting line.
That's right.
So, hey, Brycen, man, appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Appreciate your time tonight. And, man, it's good talking to you. And we look forward to watching you get back at it here in a couple of weeks.
All right, man. Thank you guys so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure. Had a great time. Michael, it's great talking to you, brother. And man, let's hop on here in the podcast here in a couple more races and keep recapping.
We'll do, man. We will. We'll talk to you down the road, and good luck in the next race, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah, best of luck,
All right,
Brycen. I hope to meet you at the breakfast table there one morning sometime soon. So.
Right, man. Well, I'll have the coffee waiting on you.
Sounds good.
I'm gonna try to beat you up this time.
Good luck, man. I'm old. I get up with the sun now. So.
All right, Brycen. You have a good evening, buddy.
All right, you guys too. See you.
All right,
All right, guys. That's Brycen Neal. Made fun. Always fun to talk to Brycen. He's always a good interview, and just good to. I really enjoyed listening to him and Mike talk.
Yeah.
I bet you we could have made like an hour-long show out of just that.
The thing I get started on, and I don't know how to quit. So
that's what podcasts are, right? That's what we do.
Brycen, like I said, me and him, we grew up like. I was older and they were younger, and I always, like he was mentioned, Landon Wolf. I always tell them boys, I'm like, you guys were still kids, and I was old chasing y'all around. So I wish I could have been like a part of their group, young like that, and be able to do it. But I wasn't. But I'm not going to take anything away from the fun that we had. I always remind Brycen. I think where we're at, we're in Indiana in 2012, and. No, maybe 2013, and he's got a GoPro of it, and I led him for a long time, and then we come up to this section, and I just hit it like I normally would, and I look over, and Brycen has got this line picked out. I don't know how he's seen it, and he just goes by me, and I'm like if I had a GoPro on, you would have heard me in my helmet going, "What?" And and that was like the last I saw of him. But I led him for a long time. I was like, "Remember that time I was leading you?" Yeah.
Right.
So before we shift gears to the two-wheel action and talk about that Mudfest on Sunday with your XC1 winner Craig DeLong, Brandon, what do we got to do?
We got to do the Sunstar Shifting Gears segment.
Sunstar Shifting Gears segment. Now, Devin has a list of questions that was sent in via Instagram and Facebook, and then I think there's a couple in the comments section. So, Devin, what do you got for us tonight? Now, these are, Mike, these are quick, like,
try to fast as we can get.
Yeah.
Well, about 30 seconds.
Depends on who you ask, because Rodney said 30 seconds.
And then he went like 4 minutes and still didn't get to the point.
I didn't even get,
But the rest of us, only got 30 seconds. Let's make this.
You guys start arguing with me. Go ahead.
Got to make your point.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Ratchet68 said thoughts on 5 bonus fantasy points for guessing the XC1 quad and or bike whole shot winner.
It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. The only thing is we're trying to create it within the website limits. And right now we're having a hard time getting these guys to even understand the basic rules of the game. So maybe that's something that we can look to in the future. We've talked about other things. We've talked about like morning race stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe
maybe picking like a wild card.
Maybe like a 4th place in the morning race or something crazy like that. If you guess it right, you get whatever. But we have thought about stuff like that.
Yep. All right. Chomper419 says that we should ask all the riders if there's anything different or weird they do before every race.
Well, we missed Brycen, but Mike, is there anything different or weird you do before each race?
No, I mean, most riders have their own little ritual. Everyone's different. I mean, I've seen people do jumping jacks and push-ups on the starting line, and then me being old, racing the vet class, I looked over and Jeff Pickens was eating a slice of pizza on the starting line. So it's everybody's different. I know Bill Balance would eat a cheeseburger before he would go, and then you look over at Chris Borch, who's always just been the epitome of fitness. And he's not eating a cheeseburger. So it's everybody's got their own little thing, and you just got to figure out what works for you.
Don't forget about the guy that's ever like smoking like a pack of cigarettes before he goes out.
Actually, there is a guy out there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Todd Muscala.
Yeah, well, there's even better than that. I know a name that you guys will probably remember by the name of Brian Wolf. When I rode for Tom at ATV 4Play, Tom would tell me these stories because him and Brian were good friends, and they were at Etchiconee, Georgia at the motocross race, because Brian raced motocross first, and he was running Pro-Am, and Tom said, I just remember looking over, and he said Brian's bike rolls up to the line, and they had that concrete start there. He said antifreeze is pouring out of the bike. He said Brian has his helmet up on top of his head and he's got a cigarette in his mouth. And he's like right there on the Pro-Am line. He's like, and the gate drops and Brian pulls the whole shot and it's leading for a while. Like, yeah, couldn't ask for anything different.
Right.
There was a guy when I raced the Mountain State Hare Scrambles a couple of years ago. He would smoke a cigarette right before the 10-second call, and then he had a fanny pack and he'd stick those cigarettes in the fanny pack. And he said, if I break down, I'm not gonna be alone.
I'm more of I like to eat cookies before the race.
Mm-hmm.
So chocolate chip.
Is that on the troll training diet plan?
Yeah, it's right in there.
Yeah,
He said you have to choose whether you want to eat or drink your calories. So.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. I remember our good old buddy Bob Rittenhouse. He'd have a pork barbecue in his hand, a bag of Skittles, and some nachos and cheese.
We need to do a podcast with Bob
We'll have to get him in one day.
Bob would be good.
That'd be a funny one.
Next
All
question.
Right. This one's for Mike. It says, have you ever had gas poured on your nuts?
Well,
You want to know who this question's from?
I know who already sent this one in. We had a small issue with our dump can, and I'm not giving IMS any problems. I think it was the operator.
Probably.
We were in Florida, and I think he was just too excited, and he tried to pull the dump can out too quick, and it dislodged open, and of course, what gas was left in came out on me, and in Florida. Not ideal.
It's a worse place for that to happen.
Yeah, not ideal. So it turns out the very next weekend at Georgia, he did the same thing, but I was prepared. So I was already standing up when it happened, and it missed me. But yeah, it's a running kid.
Was the person that did this the same person that asked the question?
I'm guessing. That's my guess.
Yeah.
We talked about him earlier about complaining and stuff because he's a loser.
Yeah. Next question.
All right, this one's from Sunstar. Would you rather be a genius no one believes or an idiot everyone believes?
We fall into one of those categories already. I just don't know which one.
I got a lot of people who believe me, and I'm an idiot.
That's the category I thought we all would fall into.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I guess I'd rather be a genius that nobody believes, right? I don't know.
If you're a genius that no one believes, then they'll believe you after they're wrong.
Doug Kirk loves these riddle questions.
Yeah.
All right. Andy JWP YFZ Racer. It says real life MX versus ATV. Top 3 XC1 ATVs versus top 3 XC1 bikes. What would the podium be?
Oh,
I guess it depends on where, right? Where are we at?
We talking like a GNCC? Like
I'm assuming it's
that's the XC1.
Yeah.
XC1.
So like Ben,
they didn't pick a track. So
as much as I want to give the ATV guys credit,
Right.
I don't know if you remember when Barry retired. He came back to GNCC and actually trailed on a dirt bike and got a lot of video footage. And he hung right there with the front guys on quads.
Mm-hmm.
Not taking anything away from them because trust me, I can't keep up with them. They're fast, but he was able to get a lot of good footage right there behind them. And of course, Barry's up in age at that point.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I would like the question more be like if they switched disciplines
Right.
and then went out there because that's where I give all the quad riders, their due because more guys can jump off an ATV and race a dirt bike than a dirt bike guy can jump off that and jump on an ATV.
Do you remember
out there with them?
Yeah.
I had the daylight scared out Mitch. I jumped the back over here at Pyramid, and I could just hear this revving, and I was like, "Man, there's nobody out here as fast as me. Like, who in the world?" And I'm looking, and of course, it's night practice. You can't see, so I'm looking. I can just hear this bike, and then finally, we land up there on the top to take the turn, and it's Mitch up on the top, knocking the tires off the top of the turn up there in the S turns, and I'm like, where did he come from? But now I will say that John, he was running the gate down there one night, and I was the only ATV guy left on a practice night, and a bunch of the dirt bike guys were there, and John's like, "Hey, would you care if Lancaster jumps in with you guys?" And of course, they didn't want me out there because I'm on a couch.
Yeah.
And John was like, "Well, listen," he's like, "I'll give you guys 5 minutes, and I'll give him 10." And they're like, "Oh, no, he can go with us." So I let them all go, and I went out. And of course, being my home track, I was pretty quick there.
Right.
I passed everybody, and I was trying to throw whips, everything I could.
Yeah.
When I pulled into the trailer, I was like, "Y'all ever seen a stroller go that fast before?" And everyone, they all hated me instantly.
I was there that night. I remember that.
They all hated me instantly. I was just like, man, and I have no I don't care what you ride. I love racing no matter what it is. Like have fun with it. Don't hate the other discipline. I know they get mad because we take out ruts and different stuff, but I've helped out dirt bike guys too. And I've told them, like, hey, a lot of times when you come into them field sections, it's nice to have that berm that we built. And he's like, well, yeah, you got a point. And I'm like, it's nice to have that berm every now and then. So.
Right. Yeah. That's a hard question. Like, especially through the woods, you have to give the guy the dirt bike, just racing a dirt bike in the woods. Like the lines, you can straight track a lot more lines than you can on a quad, just because like you can go between trees. Like you've rode with me before and you're like, I never thought about that line before. So
I never thought about it because it couldn't fit through it.
That's right.
The craziest ones I love with dirt bike guys is that like when they come up to a double tree area and it's tight and you watch them bring the front wheel off the ground and turn their bars so they get through the tree easier. I'm like, yeah, you're not doing that.
It's sketch, man.
Like you're gonna rip off one wheel and then you're gonna have a bent.
That's why Stu always comes with his jersey ripped off his sleeves.
You're gonna have a bent axle on a quad. And you're not gonna do that stuff. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Once again, different disciplines. So,
yeah, you'd have to give, I'd say, the top 3 dirt bike guys, and then the top 3 quads is right behind them. But I mean, that's only I can to answer the question.
And it also, I think, depends on, like you said, what track you're at.
Right.
Different tracks are going to suit ATVs better, and different tracks are going to suit bikes better. So.
Yeah, if you hit a track like, let's just say fast tracks, GP style, that's not, cut the ruts out, get a little, like quads got an advantage.
Yeah.
But you give a deep ruts where the quads have to fade around, the bike's got an advantage.
Yes.
So that's just the way it goes.
Definitely.
Any more?
You got one. I think we don't have time for about one last question. You got a good one?
So there was questions on here that maybe we can get some answers to in the future. But to what extent is Yamaha involved with Phoenix Racing support-wise? Is it equivalent to the 2000s or more of a satellite deal, trying to gauge Yamaha's involvement as the last man standing? So I think we could probably reach out to the Ellers about that in the future and get an answer for them.
Yeah, we'll have to reach out. I mean,
I'm going to say it's probably not the same as the early 2000s.
No,
I would say
I don't think
just because there was a lot of money going around at that point.
Yeah, I don't think the helps in the ATV side there near as much as what it was. I mean, I miss the days when we had 5 production ATVs on the front line. So those were different days.
Those were definitely different days.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that's been your Sunstar Shifting Gears segment. We are now going to switch gears again, and we're going to talk to your XC1 winner of the general, Craig DeLong. So after the commercial break, we'll be right back with Craig.
You've seen them at the track. Now, online. Magna1motorsports.com. From used bikes, just like Jordan Chase and the rest of the team ride. Plus, all the gear you need. Helmets, goggles, gear, and more. Magna1motorsports.com or trackside at GNCC and NEPG events. Be sure to pick up a bottle of Magna 1's Magna 1 Clean It, revolutionary cleaning product for your dirt bike. Coming soon. Join Chase Landers and Team Clean. Trackside for everything you need when you need it. And at your fingertips at Magna1motorsports.com. Magna 1 Motorsports and Magna1motorsports.com, your everything dirt bike headquarters.
Doug here from Sunstar Sprockets and Chains. I just wanted to take the time to thank you for listening to the Split Line Off-Road Podcast and for a great 2022 season. I look forward to meeting as many of you as I can on the GNCC circuit next year, which reminds me, Splitline has talked me into continuing with their discount code. All you need to do is go to our website, sunstar-braking.com, and use the 30 to get 30% off your order. If you are not a Sunstar rider and you would like to be, then check out the Racer tab while you are there. If the link is active, then we are still accepting riders.
Hey guys, it's Mason with Steel Savers. If you've been listening to the show for a while or you've been around dirt bikes for a bit, you should know that Steel Savers makes the ultimate fork seal protector for your dirt bike. Not only do we have a full range of product for your dirt bike, we also have a variety of products for your side-by-side, for your mountain bike, for your quad. Be sure to check out our coil savers and CV boot savers for a double layer protection over your CV boot. Check out sealsavers.com and enter the code SPLITLINE for 25% off. That's sealsavers.com and the code is SPLITLINE for 25% off. Thanks for listening to the show.
All right, guys, we are back. And on the line, we are joined by the winner of the General GNCC. First ever GNCC overall win, Craig DeLong. Craig, what's going on, man?
Not much at all. Just hanging out.
Yeah, man. Excited to have you on. I'm sure it's been a really exciting week for you so far. I mean, how's it feel to finally get that first one in the bag?
It feels good. It feels really good, actually. Just, I don't know, just kind of trying to take it all in and enjoy it, and try to obviously enjoy it as much as I can. I got a enduro coming up this weekend, so I can't, too much, but reflecting and and just thinking back on what I did. So that was pretty much about it.
That's awesome.
You out of your eyes or what?
No, I pretty much cleaned up on Monday, so we're been pretty lucky that way. Other than what a mess, that's for sure.
So completely honest, going to the starting line and seeing the conditions that you were ready to have to face, were you excited about the race that you're getting ready to have, or were you kind of like, oh man, this is gonna suck?
No, I was excited. I was actually, I guess I was like 50-50. I like the mud, but man, when it gets like that, it's sometimes it's enjoyable. At the same time, it's not, just because those kind of conditions are stressful, man. Just having to manage your bike and get through every tough section clean and not getting stuck and stuff like that. And right. I thought for sure they would have called the race early, just with how much water and bad it was. But no, it was yeah, I mean, I guess I was excited, I guess. Excited. I don't want to get too far off topic, but yeah, I mean, excited was I guess a good word to use.
Right. So I'll tell you what I love about this is it wasn't just like to me this way, it wasn't just a fluke mud racer win, because the week before down in Florida, dude, you had a heck of a podium, showing some speed late in the race, you're riding great, and then you come back and you back it up the following week in this nasty mud, in this condition, and win your first XC1 race. To me, that's awesome. Like, to me, it's not saying that you're just a guy that's rides good in the mud and got lucky, right? Like you're working your way this way. You've earned this one, and I think there's going to be a couple more to come for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do. I mean, I actually was kind of thinking the opposite, that it maybe was a little bit not a fluke, but a mud race like that is anything can happen, right? So like, I mean, to solidify like a not that I'm saying it wasn't a true win, but like, a true win, not a true win, that sounds bad, but like a dry race is right. Like, what I mean, what I'm trying to say, like it's more legit. Some people may look at it, but not, no, the fact that I've been on the podium a couple times and consistently kind of up front here the last two races have been definitely solidifying for sure.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Craig, this is Mike Lancaster here. I had a couple questions, like coming into the last lap, do you kind of tone it down a little bit, just being the conditions that it is, or are you still trying to keep the pace you've been doing the whole race, or what's your mindset going into the last lap there?
No, I was trying to keep the same pace. Honestly, like my bike was running fine. I wasn't sputtering or stalling on me or anything crazy like that. So I was just trying to keep the pace going. I didn't know that the lead that I had until I got into the last lap. I had stopped. Caleb actually had cleaned out my exhaust pipe because the mud kind of was closing up the exhaust.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of stopped for 5 seconds or so, and he's like, "You got a minute lead or a minute 10 or something?" And I'm like, and I didn't know that at the time. Like I rode the whole last, the 4th lap and didn't see them guys. I just figured, they were, just out of sight. And when he said that, it was almost like the worst thing he could have said, because it was like I started thinking about stuff. And,
It's in your head big time then, isn't it?
yeah, a little bit. And I didn't fall all race until the last lap. I fell like 3 times the last lap. And, man, I thought I was going to throw it away, to be honest with you. I was just doing –
is the worst time just for the fact of is you're exhausted, and the bike's the heaviest it's been the whole entire race. And I know I race ATVs for years, and I know like those last lap crashes where you got to get off the bike, they're the worst. Just your body never really gets back into the flow quite as well. Just it's so tired.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't like, honestly, I was pretty good there at the end. I wasn't tired or wasn't like super fatigued. It was just more my mindset, like just kind of I started thinking about things, and like then once I started crashing, I was on the ground for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and it's like, oh man, I'm gonna be seeing him here pretty soon. And like it was probably about halfway through the lap, and I'm like almost hit myself in the head, like, man, like you need to start thinking straight here and get this thing done. And once I did that, I was good. I kind of like snapped out of it and got back into the zone and kind of put my head down and just put down solid, miles to the end. And that was, I'm glad I did that, because I don't know, if I didn't, it could have been a different story,
Right.
Oh man, you'd hate to give that up after being out so far in front and just doing everything you can. One thing that I thought was, I guess, kind of scary from a rider's perspective is, man, there were some holes out there. It looked like that you didn't really know where the bottom was before you entered into them, and then like even the finish line area looked like it was treacherous.
Yeah, the whole thing was treacherous, man. Like, getting to start, and I said it a couple of times, like I didn't really want to lead. I led for probably the first 2 or 3 miles or so off the start, and Stu, I think, was second, and he was like kind of feeling racy, like kind of showing me wheel here and there, and I'm like, I didn't give him the position, but I kind of like, he got a run on me. I just kind of like, here, you want to lead, like I'd love to follow you. Right? And, and we ran, it was 4 miles at the morning race, didn't run. And that's kind of the section we were heading into that he took over the lead. And man, there was a lot of water. Just and he was kind of like almost wanting to break away a little bit. And like I knew I didn't want to let him get away, but I didn't want to be the guy splashing all the water and puddles and finding those deep holes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was good all the way to the end of the lap, and it kind of bit him. And then I just kind of took the lead back over, and that's kind of what happened. Like Ashburn got around me again, kind of doing the same thing, and he kind of found a deep spot. I got back around him, and then I just kind of finding myself in the lead because these guys were kind of having little mistakes like that where they were just not necessarily pushing too hard, but maybe not taking a second or a half second to make sure that the hole they were driving into wasn't a deep rut. And I had to make sure that, or as much as I could make sure that it wasn't a deep rut.
I mean, sometimes you got to ride smarter, not harder, though, right?
Yeah, I guess. So, my biggest thing was I didn't want to bury my bike and lose those positions, that I was already up front. I didn't want to have to go all the way to the back because I was pulling my bike out of a rut,
Right.
I did see. Go ahead, Mike.
And just like at the end of the lap there, like the more you do that in the beginning of the race, the more fatigued you will be at the end of the race. So
exactly,
it's always good to, which I know, pulling into some of them holes, like it's a gamble. you look at one, and you're like, oh, that's a good line, and then you get halfway through it, and you're like, nope, this wasn't the one.
Yeah, exactly. And I found a lot of holes like from those guys getting stuck, like, I mean, I've found a lot of places where I do not need to go. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, how does it feel as the little brother being the first one to have an XC1 win?
It's pretty cool. I mean, my brother's he's got his own accomplishments in the Enduro series, and a champion in that series, and that's cool. It's really awesome to be able to kind of share that stuff with him, because he's maybe not a GNCC winner, but a lot of XC2 wins and a couple overall podiums, and kind of just we're able to have conversations and be able to we both kind of experience the same thing, so it's cool. And I know he's proud of me and happy for me, which is awesome. It's cool to be able to experience that and have conversations like that. It's awesome.
Yeah. So often you see, like, in across all sports, you'll see guys where if they had an older brother that was really, really good at that sport, it just helps those guys, and I'm sure including yourself, like, propel you. Like, your growth is that much, I don't want to say faster than theirs, but like, you're able to see them and you're kind of chasing them your whole life, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I was on a mini bike and he was on a big bike, and I was just chasing him. And even when I got onto the big bikes, and even when we were both professionals, it's like I was always with him, like whether he was going riding with, he was teammates with Josh Strang for a long time, and just different people. Like, I got to go along because I was, with him. So that was a huge advantage for myself and to get me to where I'm at now, for sure. And I mean, I got a good amount of success that I've gotten because of him and being able to tag along and ride with faster people when I was younger, for sure.
Yeah, that helps a lot when you have someone that's especially who you look up to and you kind of want to be like, and you want to be like them, and then you're like, well, if I can go, if I can keep up with them and be, and you ride with Josh Strang and your brother, and that'd be sick.
Yeah, so the stage is never. I don't know. I don't want to say the stage is never like big, but I feel like if you're around that stage and you're around that caliber of rider, and like, one day when you line up beside Strang, like, well, you've already rode with him for a long time. So it's not like you're not shell shocked.
You don't.
Yeah, I guess right. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
right.
you don't get that stage fright, and it's also cool just because, I mean, the brother rivalry, you're always going to have a little bit. I actually help a couple brothers in the ATV world right now in GNCCs, and of course they have their normal, brothers bickering at each other, but it's cool to see how much they still help each other out, and they're excited when the other one does well. Like, even if the other one doesn't have the best day, they're still right there for their brother. And I never got to enjoy that while I raced, but I think that's super cool. And I wish more families could see stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I mean, he doesn't go to the races anymore, but he still watches them and pays attention. It's good to, call him on a Sunday night or a Monday, and just, I do value his opinion and stuff like that. And it's good to hear, his perspective on things. And it's good to hear that, because I know that he's going to, not that nobody else doesn't give you the straight answer, but I know that he knows more about myself than anybody else, if that makes sense.
Well, your brother's the guy that you could call after your win last weekend, and he's going to be like, hey, even though you won, I think you could do this a little bit differently, and it might help you in the future, kind of thing, where a lot of people might be like, oh, you won, you did great out there, and they don't give you that advice, right? So I think that definitely helps.
Yeah.
No, it does for sure. It really does.
Yeah. So, we're 3 rounds into the series, and I mean, you're basically picking up where you left off last year as far as just being right up there up front. I mean, last year finishing second overall in the series, and really kind of establishing yourself. And like Brandon mentioned earlier, this win is for sure like not a fluke or the last one to come. And we're excited to see what you are able to do for the rest of the year. Because, I mean, man, finished second last year, you're third right now, and I mean, in an extremely strong class. Even though last year, you know, everybody could say, well, there were so many people missing. Well, you can't say that this year. It's a pretty tough class.
Yeah, and that's it's definitely cool to see that last year, you know, wasn't a fluke, you know, like with the light class that we had and stuff like that. And you know, I feel like if I didn't have a year like I did last year, I think, you know, that was a big confidence boost myself, just kind of getting those races under my belt and being able to get podiums and run up front there at the end of the year was big for me. And I think it kind of snowballed into, you know, my off season and, you know, this year. And then also just, you know, on Sunday where I was able to win, like I was just, the confidence was building and yeah, it just led to that. Right. So
that's the most dangerous thing is confidence. Once you start to get that confidence going, man, it seems to kind of just come easy for you. So
yeah,
I feel like there'll be a lot more of you on the top step just for the simple fact of the confidence is creeping in there pretty good.
I sure hope so. That's for sure. But no, it's cool. Like I'm in the hunt, you know, now. Like I think I'm 9 points back from I guess would be Ben now, I guess, because it was Stu and then this whole thing today, right?
Yeah, right.
But either way, it's the same whether it's Ben or Stu. I'm still 9 points back. So
Right.
Yeah.
So we had a question earlier on our segment. Do you do any like crazy like pre-race rituals or anything like that to get ready for the race?
No, not really. I'm not superstitious about anything or, you know, nothing like that.
You're not doing jumping jacks, eating a cheeseburger or anything like that before you go race.
No, nothing out of the ordinary. Just yeah, just kind of try to treat it like a normal day for sure.
Yeah,
like the night before, just try to treat it like any other night, right? Just another day.
Yeah. So, you know, you kind of mentioned the fact of like the Stu and the Ben thing happening, the switching of places in the race this weekend. I know that, you know, Stu was off the track a little bit, but I'm sure it was tough for you guys when they're rerouting the track here and there, and then I'm sure you're trying to find the edges of the track to where it's not deep. And how hard was that to stay in the lines while racing this weekend?
Yeah, it was definitely tough for sure. I mean, some parts were good, you know, like you could stay in the main line that the quads would even run, and then other parts, you know, it was 50 feet wide, so it was kind of tricky. You got those spots where it's like, you know, you can go down the middle and you know it's going to be a hard bottom, but then you get to the spots where it's like, you know, it's kind of like, well, you got to like, you know, pick your way through it. And a lot of the stuff, you know, sometimes you go all the way out and it's, you know, way out of the way or stuff like that. But a lot of times you can cross rut and kind of go through the middle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do a lot of that because I know once you get so far out, you know, with them just timbering that, you had to deal with a lot of logs and a lot of underbrush. So it's like the closer you could stay to the actual track was better. It's just tough because the ruts in the water, you couldn't tell. So a lot of it's like you're kind of cross-rutting, trying to go across what you think is ruts and water, right? So it's, you know, places you do have to keep going outside and outside. But for the majority, I was trying to stay as close as I could or on the main track as possible.
And don't forget about like the lappers that you're running into as you're coming up on these guys. So, you know, if they're in a good line that you're in or that you want to take and you're like, man, I got to go to a different line. You got to find a different line, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that was kind of the tricky part. And I don't know how, you know, if they could tell if they were getting lapped or not, because I had a couple people like, you know, racing me, and I was like, I had to yell at them like you're getting lapped, which I never had to yell before, like, but because it was like I had my goggles on, and I was fortunate to leave them on all race. Like I stopped and got new ones, obviously at the pit, but I didn't want to completely just toast my goggles racing the lapper.
Right.
So, but yeah, the lappers were definitely interesting, and just being, all muddy like that. They don't know whether you're
right
in your class or you're leading, right? So I can't blame them. I'd probably do the same thing, but
yeah, that would have sucked if a lapper came over and it took you out or something.
And you're not coming at the speed that they're accustomed to seeing you come at.
Exactly. Yeah, and we weren't I was pretty not easy on my bike, but I was riding at a gear high, just lugging it, carrying speed. So it's they couldn't hear us coming or hear you coming as what they normally do, right? So I can totally understand. It is what it is.
Now, do you run a recluse, or do you run just a standard clutch, or?
Yeah, just a standard clutch. Yeah, just a standard clutch.
I say in races like that, that's a big thing, just not overheating your clutch in the mud and stuff. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, the clutch was super. The biggest thing this weekend was brakes. I lost my brakes halfway through the race.
Really?
With the mud, and yeah, I guess it's just the mud just eats away at the pads, and it's just, yeah, they would work metal on metal there from the rest of the race, but it's sometimes I go into the corner and I pull my front brakes in and then go all the way to grip, and then sometimes they'd be there. So it was you didn't know what you were gonna get.
That's brutal right there, man.
Don't want to pull the brakes too hard. You don't know if you're going over the handlebars or not.
Exactly. So it was I had to kind of change, knowing that the brakes were not going to be there. I was aware of that, so I was really not letting off early, but trying to carry as much momentum as I could, kind of be up a gear, let off, and just try to roll through the turns, up a gear so the engine wasn't dragging me down too much, but enough to where it would kind of slow me down too. It was kind of trying to carry momentum, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So, but some places you can't do that, obviously, with the mud and the ruts, but trying my best.
Go ahead, Mike.
Back to the goggle issue. I know with racing ATVs in the mud, how much you change, but how often did you change goggles lap to lap? Were you doing one set of lap, or were you trying to do 2 sets of lap with just finding, having your team out there getting you another pair somewhere, or?
No, actually, I was really fortunate. I used X-brand goggles, roll-offs, and the pair I started with, I ran all the way to the pit stop, which was on the second lap. So it was an hour in. And then after that, I ran the next goggle, the pair, for 2.5 laps. I had to ditch them halfway through the last lap because I ran out of film. So I only went through 2 pairs of goggles.
Wow,
that's amazing.
Wow, that's really impressive. We're gonna play this clip and try to get X brand sponsorship.
And in the ATV world, I literally would go through 2 pairs of lap. Of course, we got a few more tires out there that are throwing some mud, but. And my biggest thing is that I wouldn't run out of film. It was just that they would get so clogged with mud that you couldn't pull the roll off anymore.
Yeah,
and you'd have to ditch them, and then you don't want to try to race the guy in front of you because you can't see when you do finally get your new pair of goggles. So I always wanted to have the dirt bikes did it. So that's awesome, man. I give it up to X brand for sure.
It did help that I was able to be out front and kind of be either first, second, or third, kind of not in a ton of roost, So that I think had a lot to play into it, but still, they were solid all day. It was, I couldn't have, I don't think it could have really gone any better.
Yeah. We have a couple live listeners that are commenting. Bill Morris wants to say congratulations on your win. Super pumped for you. And David Hawkins actually has a question. He wants to know if you ran a 110 or a 120 rear tire for the mud race.
I ran a 120 rear, 81 Dunlop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you typically run?
I usually run it everywhere, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Pretty much everything was as I normally do.
Yeah.
I was joking around with the guys Sunday morning because I went and walked around and was checking it out, and they're like, I joked because I had taken the paddle tire off from Florida on Friday when they were working on the bikes and getting ready, I said, hey, you might want to get that paddle tire back out and mount it up.
Maybe
just
put
like
a
look at the
pontoon
mud
on
and
it.
stuff. And they're like, really? And I'm like, it sounds like a good idea, but no, it's gonna be way too slick for that. I'm like, all right, well, we can do it if you want to. And I'm like, no, I'm good. It'll be fine.
Right.
It worked out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
how's the air filter situation? Because I know some of the guys were
Yeah.
changing air filters, and then some of the guys just ran it so long that it looked like you could plant a garden inside there. So,
Honestly, I didn't even get to see my air box after the race. We didn't stop for filters or do anything like that. I know the Husky air box
It's good.
is a little bit different than the KTM's. And yeah, we just taped it up and kind of tried to make it as waterproof as they could. And I mean, my bike didn't even really sputter. Like I babied it pretty good, pretty as much as I could and still be going, the speed that I needed to go. And yeah, that thing was bulletproof, man. It was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the Huskies have one of the best air
was
filter
solid.
boxes, I think.
Yeah, that thing was. I think I could have rode that thing in the ocean for like 5 feet deep and came out. I think it would have been fine. Like, I got a picture from Ironman from one of the creek crossings where like the only thing sticking out is like my handlebars, the top of my gas tank, and my seat. Like my exhaust is not through the water and stuff like that. And like that was the only race where my bike has sputtered like from mud, and it's still finished.
Oh man.
So
you roll up to the line just completely confident. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, this thing's gonna be fine. And, like I knew the bike wasn't gonna be the issue. That's for sure.
Yeah. You know what I love about mud races is the creativity you see on the front line. Like you always see people like I saw Thad had goggle lenses,
two goggles,
lenses
goggles.
on his handlebars and then there was a few other things. Did you have anything like creative that you did to try to keep mud off your face or anything like that?
No, I didn't. So we have like these twin air like helmet visor covers, and it's like a filter, but it's not.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to keep the mud from sticking. And I'm like, the mud's pretty wet. Like it ain't gonna stick to me. Like, and I don't know why I said that because the rain stopped and it started to stick. But no, I didn't do anything crazy. The only thing that I did was they had these like it's like an outer grip, almost like a foam outer grip that we put on, and I've never run it before, and we tried this weekend. It was probably the best thing I've ever done in the mud before.
is that like the Seal Savers deal where they put the
it's like a foam outer grip. It's like kind of
like the Risk Racing ones,
like kind of poofy,
yeah,
like a little bit, and yeah, that thing was dynamite. It was.
Does that keep you from like having to stop and like wrap paper towels around it and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it takes the water and like the mud and just kind of like dissipates it. You know, like it. And so, yeah, like I didn't have to use paper towels or nothing on my grips. Like those things were awesome.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't even know who makes them. I don't even know. Like, all right,
we're looking for another plug there for.
But hey, that Guts Racing C cover was probably pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, Guts was good too. I mean, in the mud races like that, I can be pretty picky with just because I sit down a ton. I'm bad about sitting down, and when the seat gets slimy like that, man, you slide all over the place, and it was good.
Yeah.
No issues there either.
We're sponsored by Guts, so we're throwing a plug out there.
Hey, that's fine. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, that's right. So going into you got a few weeks off now. Do you have anything like
he has Endora coming up next week?
Yeah, I got Endura this weekend.
Well,
but after that, I got a weekend off.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, I knew you had a weekend. I thought you had a weekend off here and there. On the weekend off, we're just going to chill out, relax, get ready to go, or are you training more, or what?
I don't know. it's up to Caleb and my trainer Jacob Teddy. So, I don't know. I'm assuming it'll be kind of ramped back up here, like we were in Florida. I would assume, but I'm not sure. It's they like to keep us on our toes, that's for sure. So we'll find out.
So are you going to reward yourself for your first XC1 win, or is that just a reward enough? Or I know some guys maybe like treat themselves to a little bit of something, or
I'm not a big like gift or gift guy or spending a lot of money guy. I did go to a dinner, I guess a nice restaurant, whether you want to call it a nice restaurant or not, but I did go out to eat Monday night, and I had a couple drinks, and that was enough for me.
That's good for you.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal, man. Well,
yeah, that was about it.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. Really appreciate like you jumping on here after the first win. I'm sure, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever else you're on was completely blowing up. That's got to be kind of cool too, like to leave the track and then your phone's probably just lighting up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe all like I'm not the quickest guy to get out of the race, so like by the time I got packed up and stuff, it was like 6:30 already, and I happened to look at my phone and like it was blowing up, and it was man, it's cool to see like all those people that they, for one, they watched the race and knew the results, and they care enough to text you and congratulate you. So that's awesome. Everyone that had reached out and congratulated me, I try to get back to them and tell them thanks, and I really do appreciate everything. Like that was it's cool to hear and to see, and yeah, I'm definitely not taking it for granted.
Yeah. Good deal, man. Well, it's cool. Like again, we really enjoyed watching the race this weekend, and really were pumped for you to get that win and watch you cross the finish line, see the excitement on your face and everything, and just a cool moment to be able to witness.
Yeah, that was man, that was cool. I wish I would have thought about doing something cooler than that. I didn't really do anything. But,
well, I mean, Stu ruined it for us.
Your hands are kind of tied. Like what are you gonna do that you don't get in trouble for?
Well, the big mud rut that they had right before the finish line didn't really help.
No doubt that rut was gnarly. Took out Rachel Archer before she could almost took a win away from her.
That was quite the finish.
Yeah.
That was that was cool.
I've never seen one bike jump the other bike going through a finish line. I think that's a first for that one.
That is a first. Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, I thought about like dropping my bike and like throwing my arms up in the air and stuff like that, but I'm like, nah, I'll just go through the finish line.
I watched it and I saw you come through the finish line there, and you let out a nice whoo, and I watched it a couple of times, and just like the expression on your face, man, you can see that it was kind of setting in that you just won your first XC1 overall, and you let out a little screech air, and you could just see how relieved you were. It was cool to see.
No, yeah, for sure. It was definitely there's a big weight off my shoulders for sure. Because last year I came pretty close at the Burr Oak, so I was like, I knew I could do it, and it was just a matter of time. And I feel like if I didn't get one this year, it would have been like not my Achilles heel, but it would have been like it would have like almost set me backwards. Right. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like to get it done now is like, okay, now it's like we can get back to it. Like not saying that was holding me up, but it was like, now I can kind of like forget about it almost.
Yeah. And you got it when the class was as stacked as it's been in a long time.
Yeah, that was cool. Like the battling Stu, like I battled Stu a couple times last year, but to be able to go back and forth with him, and that was fun. And also Ricky and Jordan, like it was cool just to be mixing it up with all them guys for sure. It's just it's fun, especially in the mud like that. Like you're almost side by side through the mud holes, but like you're not going fast. But it's like it's a race. It's a race to the next corner, right? It's just like whose line's better, which is fun. That was cool.
I'm sure it was fun, man. I'm sure it was. Honestly, I'm so glad that they had the clear cut or select cut or whatever you want to call it for the drone footage, because that drone footage was pretty sweet. It really was, just getting a bird's eye view of it.
Yeah, that was the best place for it for sure. Just being able to. It sucks that we were so muddy. Like it was kind of hard to tell who was who, but like for me racing it, like I was able to like kind of picture like, oh well, like I could relive it in my brain almost, but also like watch it on TV, which is was kind of cool, like a different perspective.
So you did rewatch it already?
I did. I watched it last evening.
Yeah, that's I'm sure it's cool because like you can like live it in the moment and then like go back and see it. I mean, man, we talk so much about how far Racer TV has came, and I remember back in the day when like you're watching just the finish line and just listening like to Rodney Tomlin, like just amazing how he was able to keep people's interest when like you see nothing but the finish line for forever. And then now we're like literally bird's eye view watching you guys.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like I'm here with Johnny Gallagher. He's here at Caleb's, and being able to get his like perspective or inside scoop, I guess that's what you want to call it. Like it's cool to hear that, and they've definitely have gone leaps and bounds to get the coverage that we have now, which is it's cool. Now it's like an actual like an enjoyable show to watch.
Johnny helps that out a little bit too. Johnny's very good at the commentating side of it. He fits right in there perfect.
Yeah, him and Mikey, and then the two new guys are really good as well. They got a good crew.
Yeah, Johnny's all right. He's
he's all right.
He'll get the big head.
No, Johnny's cool. I enjoyed hanging out with him here. I've known Johnny for a long time. He's known me since I was 17, 18. My first year in Florida, so it's cool to kind of look back and relive those old days. And we were just talking about it on Caleb's podcast that seeing with that first year I came down to Florida and where I'm at now, he said it's cool to see.
Yeah, it is cool. It is cool. And like you get your first win and then you knock out 2 podcasts in the same night. I mean, you're just like celebrity status at this point, right?
I don't know if I go that far, but definitely more than I'm used to for sure.
The night show's calling.
Yeah. Hey, and then I listened to Pulp today, and you were mentioned on Pulp too. So there you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. X-brand goggles.
X-brand.
There you go, X-brand. That's right.
So, hey, Craig, man, I'm sure you're all talked out for the evening, so we're going to let you go, man. We really appreciate your time tonight, and man, congratulations again. Really looking forward to seeing you guys get back at it when the GNCC rolls back around, and good luck this weekend too.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I always enjoyed sitting back and then doing some bench racing. It's awesome to do. It's fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It's fun to get to relive that win with you, man. So have a good evening, man, and we'll talk to you here in the future, buddy.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, later.
Yeah,
man, that was fun. I'm sure, and like you said, Mike, like watching his face at the end of the race, like it's just a big.
You could see just the relief of not just your first win, but finishing that race.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just because, like he said, the last lap was his worst lap. When you finally see that checkers, man, and you get through it, it's so relieving. Yeah. And like I said, I saw him give a little screech, and then I could just see the expression on his face of like, I did it. Like I did it. And it's cool to see, man.
Yeah.
It's cool to see that.
Yeah, I think of him. I was like, man, Caleb is like, no, don't. I don't hear what you're saying. Like, like, don't tell me I'm a minute up on these guys, right?
I mean, could you imagine, like, when you're winning, the last lap has got to be the longest, right? And then on top of that, for it to be actually extremely long because of the mud, and then the situation with the lappers, I'm sure that last lap, and I know he had complete confidence in the bike, but you never know. Like, you never know when you're going to go into a mud hole, and the only thing you see is your handlebars.
Right. Yeah. There literally was a guy on Racer TV that they got on drone footage that the bike was buried. The dirt was higher than the seat on the bike. I don't even know how before you got there, you had to know that was going to be really deep. But like
he went for it anyway.
Yeah, his feet had to get blowed off the bike as he was going into the rut because the seat was below the dirt.
And another thing on that last lap is any bike that comes up behind you, you're immediately like looking over your shoulder. You're looking over your shoulder. And I never had the pleasure of winning a race, but I mean, I got a couple podiums, and even those on the last lap, man, there's bikes come up behind you, and like then the mistakes start to come, and you got to learn to race forward and not worry about who's behind you, because at the end of the day, they're going to have to pass you. At that point, you're not letting them around. They're gonna have to pass you. So just keep doing what you were doing and hit your marks and just keep moving forward. But it's a mind game at that point. Like, it's very mental.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure. So he mentioned a little bit, and I didn't want to go too deep into it about Stu's penalty, but we're going to talk about that just a little bit real quick. But man, Stu mentioned it on social media. We saw it there, him talking about how, man, everybody was off the track there.
Right.
So, I don't see how you're not in that situation. Me racing, I've seen it out there. I've been a part of it. Like, you come up to a spot and, there's 6 lines and there's 50 bikes there, and you have to find a different line. And it's so hard to look up and see where all the arrows are. Are you going through a double arrow spot? Yeah. And you're just not thinking of that. You're thinking of getting through the situation. So I really feel bad for Stu, because I mean, he come in and told on himself, but he also did say that he had some video footage of some other stuff. So it'll be interesting how it all plays out this week.
Right.
There's been some new developments in this scenario.
Since we started the show?
Yeah. So he posted a picture to a story of the red and white placards that you have to go between, and said, "What do these mean?" And then said in the same story that he does have videos and lots of fans in the woods, but he's also friends with all these guys, so he's not going to put the videos out there. But he did put a picture up and said, "What is this for?" And it was a picture of the red and white placards. So obviously he was hinting at it, but the videos are apparently not going to come, just because of friendships that he has with the guys that he's racing with.
I mean, it's one of those things that unless it was completely blatant and like he's cutting a chunk off the track,
which it happens. I actually personally witnessed this. It's actually a pretty sore subject with me. I had a kid. You all know I've had a couple injuries. I never thought I would get to come back and go racing, and I got to, and I had a really good race at John Penton one day. Would have been on the amateur overall podium on the day. Just one of them days it just seemed everything was clicking. I rode well, and come in, and a kid that I had passed in a different class, I had passed him a lap previously, was sitting there, and I'm like, "How did you get here?" And of course, I don't go protest or anything, but when I get back to the truck, they finally load up the lap times and stuff, and I see on the last lap, I turned like a 31, and he'd been turning 32s, but his last lap he turned a 25.11, and Walker had turned a 25.07. Right. And I'm like, okay, like something happened. And I actually talked to the kid. I was like, I think I know what you did. Real bad spot. Track kind of come together a little bit. You could take a left and you could cut off like 1.5 miles of the track. And you didn't really even realize that you did it. But of course, at the end of the race, it's gonna show when you cut off.
Yeah.
And I tried to be cordial with the kid and just say, hey, man, you can keep your pictures up of you on the amateur overall. I would just like to have the trophy. Like
right.
I think I have 5 trophies that I've kept, that actually mean something to me, because not that these local races don't mean something, but the national trophies is the one you always like to keep a hold of. And I, like I said, I never thought I would ever get to that point. And I was like, man, I just like to have the trophy. And he proceeded to tell me that people like me is the reason he's fueled to go faster. And I'm like, well, you definitely went a lot faster on the last lap, about 7 minutes faster.
Wonder where that came from.
Yeah.
He just got a spark when he found out that you were in front of him.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I wish I found that spark a lot more often.
Shoot.
No, I think so on that track though, like the red and white placards that they put up, there was at least 5 more of those than they usually put on the track anyways, because of all the clear cutting and stuff like that. But they were everywhere. So like when you came into a section that was even good for passing, there was a lot of the places that we couldn't use because they necked us down into this one spot. So you couldn't even get around people. So as far as I'm concerned, I think given the circumstances and the conditions and the fact that there was literally nobody else on that line that could say they A, didn't cut off one of those placards, or B, didn't go so far off the track that it was cheating, I think Stu probably should have got what he finished. And the fact that he came in and literally was the only person that even tried to tell on himself.
Did he make a mistake by telling on himself? And did he make a mistake by saying on TV that he told on himself? Because he was the only one that got punished about it.
I think it says a lot, because at least he's showing his character of, okay,
I agree.
I'm not a cheater and I will admit that this happened. And I think that also says a lot, because I'm going to say, given the circumstances on the points, not saying any specific people probably complained a little more than others, but there is now a 3-point swing in the other direction at this point. I think it says a lot about what their character is, and probably not going to sit real well with a lot of the GNCC nation. So,
that's.
I mean, it's a touchy subject. It really is.
Very touchy. Very touchy.
People are high emotion, and then the bad thing is like, all of this is happening on TV, like right after like every race is an emotional race, but right after, like, you just get done with a race, and then people are asking you questions. And Mike, I know you talked about like being drained physically, but how drained mentally are you after a race, and then have to deal with that?
I don't even know how like they talk to the TV afterwards. Like, usually someone's over prying my fingers off the handlebars, and they're like, "Do you want a water?" And I'm like, nothing comes out. So they'll finally give me a water, and I'll just give them the thumbs up.
Sometimes these guys look fresh as a daisy. Like,
well, like a lot of the ATV guys will come off, and then they'll go do the e-mountain bike race. I'm like, what? Like, I know it's got an electric motor on it, it helps you, but like, I need like an electric scooter to get somewhere.
Right. Oh, shoot. I'll tell you what, since we got Mike in, let's talk a little bit about some ATV racing going on currently with Coltrane and Hunter Hart. I've been really impressed with Cole Richardson this year so far. I expected this from him last year. Didn't kind of hit till later in the year, but I'll tell you what, right now, early this year, Cole Richardson has been on a roll.
Yeah, he's on some new equipment this year too. A little different style than what he's been used to. It's weird because, I mean, I knew Cole when he was coming up through the ranks, and I kind of thought he almost kind of peaked, and then and now he's finding some speed, especially late in the races. He's making stuff work, and I mean, he kind of hit a little slump there where it looked like he wasn't training much, and like I saw him pass in front of me on the track, and I didn't even hardly recognize the kid, and then I see he's kind of slimmed back down now. He's back into doing some training, and hey. All the more to him, man. I want more people up front to give Brycen a little bit of a run. I wish Cole could get up there a little earlier.
Right.
I'd like to see John Galata get up there a little earlier. I think John's really starting to come into his own.
Yeah.
If he could learn to quit tearing the machine up so much. Like, me and Matt Pierce are good buddies, and I see a lot of Matt's posts of what he's tore up. It's just like, how did he bend that? So it's kind of cool, like to see the young guns come up, and man, I've raced almost everybody on that front row, and it's so amazing how they go from where I was and then that next gear up. And honestly, it's scary. As I got older and I saw them, they go by me, I'm like, I don't have nothing for that. I'm not even going to try. Like, I got to go to work on Monday. I got kids and I'm already banged up enough. So,
let me ask you a question. In your mind right now, as the field runs, who's the what do you think the most likely guy to maybe run down Brycen Neal, maybe one racer?
I think Hunter. He's the youngest. Also, I think Galata's there. And then I always like McGill, man. McGill, he just shows up for like one race a year, and he puts in a good ride. But he's had a couple good rides here lately, and me and him have a nice little texting battle, and I'm always like, so we're like, what part of the top 10 you going to finish outside of this weekend? And just try to get under his skin a little bit. But man, if you put him in the right scenario, snowshoe, I mean, he's as fast as anybody. So it's different tracks. And you look at Brycen at snowshoe last year, where, he's half a lap in and completely demolishes a swing arm. It just, everything's got to click. All the stars got to align, and you just got to put yourself in that situation. I think that Hunter, John, those guys, I think are going to be the ones that will start to really push the issue. I think Cole can, but I think when those guys really start to get the feel that they're going to be tough.
Yeah. Do you feel like that we're starting to see the three guys though? The three podiums have been the same three guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like those three guys are starting to kind of shine, or starting to shine a little bit.
I always feel like, personally, Jared McClure
sneaky. He can sneak in there at any time.
Yeah. I mean, look, this weekend he had a breakdown, right?
Yeah.
This weekend, or he was in a position to be up there. He did the smart thing, like Brycen was talking about. Just latching on to Brycen and he pulled 20 seconds. I mean, he could have very well been on the podium this weekend. So that's somebody that, man, he just flies under the radar so much. And then every time he's out there, like, oh yeah.
and all it takes is like him latching on to Brycen. And if he can hold that pace to the end of the race, then what people don't realize is it's actually the guy in second is who has the upper hand, because all the lines that the guy in front of you is taking. You already matched his speed, so now you just have to dig a little bit deeper and find that right spot and get around him.
Yeah, and that first place guy is playing defense, kind of like if I don't take this right line, he's going to take it. He's going to buy me.
And especially if you haven't shaken him, like if he's just hung right there. So, I mean, I never thought that Josh Merritt would, be out front as much as he was this weekend. Congratulations to Josh. I raced with Josh a lot. Very proud of the kid. I think he showed a lot of resilience. And I'd like to see him up there more.
Yeah. Speaking of Josh, did you guys catch that move he made to get into the lead this weekend?
Yeah, that was outside the end.
That was a pretty
it helped
setup.
It helped out a little bit that Hunter was so far inside that he did have to check up a little bit, but hey, he lined it up and he nailed it.
No, that's it. And what I loved seeing about that, like before they even headed into the woods, like it was how racy Josh was.
Yes.
So like seeing him doing that, and then like I know the past couple weekends it seems like he's been running up front and then dropped off. I'm pumped to see that though, because it seems like he's pushing. He's pushing hard.
Which I explained earlier is weird, because when I raced Josh and I caught Josh, he just let me go around all the time. So like to see him like putting up the battle now and want to stay up there, it's good for him. Like and it's going to put him in situations to where it will begin to work out in his favor. Because the reason I started to get better in XC2 in my years was I used to be a horrible starter, like always in the back of the pack, never gave myself a chance. And all of a sudden I started getting starts, and, you go in the woods top 3, and next thing you know, on the third lap, you've only dropped back to 5th where you were in 25th, before. So you start to get with those front guys, and you learn from them, you pick up their speed, and then next thing you know, you pull a whole shot and you're leading for a while, and you feel comfortable there. So
yeah,
Josh getting out front early this weekend is confidence, and confidence is dangerous. So
yep,
the kid's still young. He's got a good program. He's level-headed kid. I like Josh a lot. So I hope the best for him. I hope he puts himself in that situation a lot more.
Yeah. And then all these guys, like like it was McClure this weekend. Like if you pull with Brycen, how much of a confidence boost is that to where, like, okay, I just ran 2 laps and he's not disappeared on me yet?
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you what, the rookie Wyatt Wilkin is starting to impress me pretty damn good.
He's getting good starts. He needs to learn how to finish races a little bit more, and maybe that just comes with a little age, But hey, you put yourself in those situations, and it'll slowly start to come, and then it'll just be second nature.
Yeah.
I really thought, like with John, you look at him at Ironman, was it last year or the year before that
I think it was the year before.
He led, a lot of that. And he had speed that, he was pulling off from Walker and them. So once again, put yourself in them situations. He was out front early and he was able to pull out. This year, he's not got the starts, and he's had to battle here and there.
Yeah.
And 30 seconds of battling somebody on the track puts you down on them leaders a lot. So
when everybody is so start dependent, it just shows how even that class really is. Besides Brycen, everybody seems to be pretty start dependent on it takes a while to get to the front. Brycen, it's amazing. It's like
he can be in the last and still come to the front. I don't know how he does that.
Right.
He's a freaking bulldog. Like, just seeing him on the track, if you go back and watch the Racer TV footage, and he just throws the bike where he wants it, and then it doesn't even matter if it's a good line. Like, the bike just goes where he's putting it.
He makes it a good line.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but back to Wyatt, man, I love the kid's attitude.
Yeah.
He just seems hungry, and like we talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and talked to him about his first race as an XC1 rider, and he was excited about it, but he acts like he belongs there.
I like the fact that we got so used to, like, Walker, who was so straightforward, and you didn't see Walker in the pits, and you didn't get to interact with Walker much, where kids like Wyatt they're wiry, they're fun, man. They have a good time. They're allowed, they get to joking and stuff. They're not so much all business all the time, which maybe that's why Walker was so good, but yet you still like to see that in these kids that are still young. They're enjoying the racing part of it, because it becomes a job. And when you don't produce the numbers you want, you really get down on yourself. I was in that situation a couple of times, and I had to just kind of go back and realize why I was racing again. I did it because I love to do it. It was fun. So I like that he keeps it fun, man.
Yeah.
I see his Instagram videos and stuff like that, and he has a lot of fun. So then that's what it's about. He's young. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be a job at this point. So
What's his saying? What's his
dirt nasty?
Dirt nasty.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Dirt nasty. Yeah.
With the air cannon that we're going to get him.
That's right.
With the sticker.
The potato
the
gun.
split line sticker on the air cannon, or the potato gun. Yeah. You just mentioned Walker, and we don't know yet when he's to return to racing. We do know that it'll be this year.
Of course, it's Walker fashion. Like, he likes to keep it
he
everything
does
quiet.
not talk about
He doesn't
it.
talk about it.
He
It's
doesn't,
like,
well, with that being said, he is going to be on the show next week.
That's the plan. But I didn't know if you were going to throw it up just in case things change. But
Walker's always been awesome.
Been good. Yeah, he's been good.
Walker actually asked us if we had room on the show. I'm like, dude,
we got room for you.
We always got room, Walker. We will make room.
How many championships? Yeah, I think we'll find.
Yeah. But I mean,
that's good that Walker's wanting to get out there though, because I mean, I talked to a couple guys about what's going on with him, and he's always been like that. I know Walker's always had some issues with some like concussions and stuff like that, and he's the type of person once he gets one, it takes him a little while to get back into the flow. And I kind of thought that's what this injury was, but then I had some more insight. And I hope it doesn't take away from how good Walker is.
Right.
Because, like, I hope he's able to step right back into the role he was in and get out there and push Brycen around the track for a little while.
Right.
You know, the roles have reversed a little bit, and he gets to push Brycen around. So I hope he comes back hungry, just for the simple fact of us fans we love a good race.
Yeah. And then, we've really grown to have a really cool friendship with Walker, and just it'll be fun to see him come back and enjoy being back to racing. We were really looking forward to seeing, he talked to us previously before the season started and was kind of really excited about being the hunter this year and nothing to lose and just going after it. And but I'm excited to see him to be able to come back and do something of that nature with from race to race. But I've been watching his Instagram, and I've seen posts about being back at the track and watching guys ride and everything. So it's good to see him enjoying things, and I just hopefully he's able to get back on the bike soon and just get back to what he loves.
It's probably put a little different perspective on it for him, just because he found out he wasn't completely bulletproof, because up until now the kid's
never been really.
I mean, when I raced him in, what was it, probably 12, and is that the year he went undefeated? I think 12 is when he went undefeated, and I remember him like I'm on the podium with him, and I'm like ecstatic. I'm happy, and he's like, I wrecked back there, and he's like, I was way over the hill, and he's like, someone finally stopped and got me up, and I'm like, and you still won? I rode as flawless as I ever have, and I saw you when you passed me, and that was it. And it's amazing, like that's how fast and how good he is, that he could stop and have himself a cheeseburger and still just be that good. So,
what about the times that he would get on the podium with you, and he'd be mad that he was leading the overall and then didn't win that day, and you're like. You ever just stand there and be like, "What the crap, dude?"
Yeah, I never was on the podium when he had that going on. Because I probably would have been like, I would have been like, "Come on, Walker, like you talk up here enough. Let me have it."
Shoot, that's funny, man. I'll tell you what, it's really cool because around here we know some guys, right? So Spider Graphics was doing jerseys, and they did a video of like the jerseys they were doing, and then you saw Lancaster's jersey pop up there on Facebook, and I was just like, smile came across my face, and I was like, dude, that's so cool to see Lancaster's jersey on there, being a pro rider and stuff. Is around here you don't see a whole lot of that, right? So it was really cool to see that one time.
It was.
I don't know if I was ever pro, but I definitly tried a lot.
XC too, man.
I mean, you guys,
if your class starts with XC,
you saw where we came from. Right. So like I said, I mean, my mechanic that helped me do all my stuff back then, I didn't have any money. I gave him Crown Royal. That was like, and Coop knows who I'm talking about.
We should bring him in for a
We should never bring him on any kind of podcast, but he was there for me every weekend, and like I said, I didn't have any money.
Did that guy chuck a tire over the hill one time with Coops?
I believe so. Maybe at Steel City.
I think. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Then I think he raced under a different name. Because somebody else didn't get to race, so he changed his name on it and raced. And
he raced. Did he race in a class that he was like probably 10 years too old for?
I think so. That whole weekend was pretty interesting. It was
cartwheels in the hallway.
Have you guys ever seen a cartwheel?
There was it was. I mean, I miss those. those were times we were all young, didn't have a care in the world.
Yeah.
Raj wasn't technically the youngest, but he didn't have a care in the world. But no, I miss those days, man. Roger shows up at the garage and he's like, boy, you know how Roger talk, boy, I hear you're doing pretty good. And I'm like, well, you know, we're clicking off some stuff. Well, what do you need me to do? I'm like, can you rebuild a motor? And he's like, where is it? And he's like, you got any Crown Royal? And I'm like, nope, but I'll get some. And that's how it works. And then I was lucky enough to get in with Mid-State. And you brought up Spider. I was with Spider since creation of Spider. Great company. I love them a lot. Stephanie and Austin, they're just special people, man. I really enjoy them. They've always been. I could call either one of them up right now and say, hey, I need some graphics, you know, for my kid's Strider, and they'd be in the mail. That's how they've always treated me. So
that's good. Yeah,
I like. That's the coolest thing that I've found that I've got out of racing is the relationships I still have with a lot of the people that helped me get to where I was.
Yeah.
So they still text me, call me, check in on me. I check in on them. And that's something that I played sports in high school. I don't talk to anybody that I played sports with in high school.
I don't talk to anybody I played sports with.
Never, ever, right?
But you know, I've not raced for almost 3 years now, and I still get phone calls from sponsors or from just other racers and asking, you know, how the kid's doing, stuff like that. So it's a tight knit family, and I really hope that my kids get to be a part of it. Now, I will say this. My little boy, he's still young. He's still real little, but he will be on a dirt bike just for the simple fact of dad race quads. And we know where that's going. And the family that I help, the Hickey boys, George is always like, hey, he's like, I got that 90 on layaway. He's like, for your boy. And I'm like, good, we need a good pit bike, man. I was like, if we're going dirt bikes.
Listen, I tell you the way it works, because I was the same way, because that's when my son rides. But the more, it's so funny because I haven't really rode the quad too much since he's been born. But when I did bring it out, he's like, his eyes get real big, and you could tell he's like, I want one of those, Dad. I'm like, no, dirt bike, stick here.
Stay away from that thing.
That's right. Don't go over here. And you could just tell like his eyes light up. And I don't know what it's about, but I'm just like, come on, man. You can't ride quads.
Isn't it funny how Thad's little boy seems to be infatuated about quads too?
Well, I mean, his grandpa, I mean, he got it on us. So
the greatness must skip a generation, right?
I like the fact that Thad does get out there and he defends us quad guys.
Yeah, he does.
Because a lot of the bike guys, I don't hate any bike guys, man. I think what they do on a dirt bike is amazing. Just like what guys do on quads is amazing. It's a different discipline and it takes different things. And I'm not saying that I don't want my kid to race a quad because I hate quads. There's no money in quads.
Exactly.
People are always like, well, why do you want one on a dirt bike? And I'm like, well, look at the pro row up there. How many quads are rolling out of semis? It's just not, it's not happening. So
dirt bike's got 2 pro rows.
Exactly. So that's where my focus is. And that's only if he wants to do it. Hell, he may say, no, Dad, we're not doing that. And he want to play baseball or basketball, and we'll go that route. So, but I hope he really wants to get into racing, and that's the route we go. So
Well, we had a couple of questions on here. I was saving them for the end, but
I was going to get to those.
Oh, go ahead, Devin.
One of the questions is, and you brought this up, I was going to say it when you said if you needed graphics, but they want to know when you're going to start racing again.
It's not going to happen. I raced a buddy race last year. I was telling Coop earlier, and 45 minutes on the bike. First time I'd rode in over a year, and I couldn't walk for a week. My forearms were, I couldn't grab things for 2 weeks. And I was just like, I like my wrench inside of it. I get to see everybody, and I get to drink my bourbon in the pit and I just hang out. So I really enjoy that. And honestly, man, the kids I'm helping now, like you said, Dayton just had a big weekend. Dayton Hickey in the college A class, he got second, and he was third amateur overall. The kid's got a lot of talent, and his brother's right there with him. We're working out some kinks with him, but it feels so good to watch them succeed, knowing that like I had a hand in it. So I get just as much joy out of watching them. And I never had a championship myself, but I've built a couple quads for some guys that did get championships. Groff was one of them. Jeff Miller is another one. And man, watching them win championships was it was a championship for me.
Yeah.
So it's a different style for it, but I really enjoyed just taking the back seat to that and seeing the people that I help succeed. So,
Yeah.
Speaking of Jeff Miller, did you see his post the other day?
He'll text me out of the blue and he'll be like, well, I could really use a bike. And I'm like, I'll build one for you. But
yeah,
he keeps talking about it. And Jeff's one of them kids that just,
you talk about talent for days.
His talent, man. And the year that I built him, we built the junior A, won the championship in it, and then he moved to XC2 the next year. He had the speed to run up front, and he ended up getting a small injury in his back where I wasn't smart enough to quit and go take care of it. I just kept on pushing through whatever pain it was, and he just ended up calling it quits. And that was the last time he's raced, and now he's talking about it again. Jeff could build him a bike right now and go win the Vet A class. He's got the talent.
He's one of the only guys that I've ever seen on a motocross track whip a quad, be as fast as you can ever be out there, right? Get off of that thing, get on two wheels, and then go freaking pancake the dirt bike. I'm like, dude, that's insane.
Yeah, he's got talent, and he's been that way since he was little. My running joke with Jeff was back in the Summersville days, they had the motocross race over there, and they had a huge money race, and that was my first year I ran cross country. I want to say it was 06. And I took my cross country bike and put my motocross stuff on it and went and raced it. And all I was interested in was the money.
Right.
I could care less what was going on. I wanted the money. And they had this big elaborate trophy that I won. And Jeff's like, I wanted that trophy. I was like, I wanted the money. I was like, I don't care about this trophy at all. Now the trophy stays on the mantle at the house, but
the money's long gone.
I'll send a picture of it to Jeff every now and then, be like, remember this? So Jeff was, man, he came up quick. He was fast, and I always liked it because I knew when I showed up when Jeff was there, I had my hands full with whatever we were doing.
Right.
So,
yeah.
My cousin has one of his old bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it the one I built?
I don't think so.
I think I built 2 or 3 for him. So
Speaking of building motors,
there's one of yours downstairs.
Yeah,
there is one of mine downstairs. Yeah, I know the guy I built that one for.
Yeah. So do you just do Honda motors, or do you do Yamaha motors? I know you're a Honda guy, man.
I normally try to stick to Hondas. That's the reason, because they're simple, like I am.
Right.
I can build them in my sleep, and with me not wanting to get overwhelmed with it, it just kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm doing, because I there's days I don't get to get out in the garage and do stuff that needs to be done. So I don't want to ever put myself in a situation of I have to have something done. So I try to give anybody that talks to me about it, I try to give them a little leeway and say, hey, I can have it done by this point. If that's not good enough for you, then I understand if you got to send it somewhere else. But I have built a couple other motors. I don't really put them out there a lot because I don't want people calling all the time wanting something different. But I built a couple different motors. Of course, I'm still learning on that stuff too. But of course, with Yamaha being the only ATV in the world anymore, I've really, really thought about having someone just saying, hey, send me a motor, you pay for the parts, I'll do the labor, and just let me do one and see what we can do with it. Just, it's a gasoline engine.
Right.
They're all the same. They're just put together differently.
It's not too bad. I've had my hands in mine a couple times, and just the double cam, you just got to watch those, that's about it.
Actually, I redid a KX 250F over the summer. Pretty simple. I mean, pretty simple, just like the Honda, except for the dual overhead cams. But what happened was it was a 22, and from what I understand, the clutch sucks in the 22. You had to put the 21 clutch in them. And he had busted some fibers, and he said it had jumped time, but what it turned out, it turned the cam. So the cam was out of time. Well, when I put it together, I didn't know that. So we got it fired up, and it was out of time. So we finally figured out that it was the cams, but me just not knowing anymore about the Kawasaki at that point, I probably should have put some sort of degree finder on it. But it was just one. The guy, he said, he trusted me to build it, and there was no time frame on it. So I was like, well, if I don't have a time frame on it, I'll see what I can do. But I built a couple 400s, actually one for Dayton last year, which in my mind it's changing that junior class and in the morning class, because you're seeing all these hybrids roll to the line, and those hybrids, man, they're $30,000-$40,000 bikes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I mean, they're just stupid expensive, and not everybody can afford that. And we rolled in with just a 400 EX, man. We put a cam in it and a piston, and we should have won. We should have won. I mean, we come down to the last race. We had the only issue that we hadn't figured out was in the new 400s, we were tearing reverse out of them, which like second and reverse goes together on the transmission on them. So what was happening is it was tearing part of the second gear off, and it was allowing that thing to free float. So all of a sudden it would just drop into reverse.
Oh.
And I was like, well, we're going to go in here. We're going to eliminate reverse. So if we do lose second gear, we're not dropping into reverse. So eliminated that. And man, we were right there. I mean, we missed it just by, and we missed it to the Lee brothers, which are on Ryland Johnson builds their bikes. Ryland told me they have a little over $50,000 a piece in each one of them.
Gosh. Oh yeah. When we were building Jonathan's, like, dude, that little 250 Raptor, and it wasn't like, there's a lot of money in those things.
And we're rolling to the line on a $14,000 bike.
Yeah.
I mean, nice bike.
Right.
Yeah.
Just not
$50,000.
$50,000. I mean, so I'm glad that George and them kind of brought me in under the tent for that one, and it's changed. I see quite a few more 400s starting to pop up, which is cool, just because it gives these kids a chance that don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the way it should be.
Speaking of hybrids, did you see where the I just had in my head the Work Series is now allowing hybrids to be to race now, like
so like put a CRF in a Honda frame now.
Yep.
I mean, I understand that why GNCC hasn't done it yet, because Yamaha still quite a bit of money into the series, but something's got to give soon.
Right.
I mean, something's got to give soon.
Hey, I've had a lot of those guys say that we need to have hybrids in the front line.
Yeah.
Like they said that if you don't want to build a hybrid because you don't have the money, then it should be optional. Like if you want to spend $70,000 to build a bike, then that's fine. And if you don't have $70,000 to build a bike, then that's your
Just go
problem.
run a Yamaha. I mean, that's,
So,
you know what I mean?
but I mean, I've raced against all kinds of guys.
I miss those days in the 250R days when you roll up a full legger bike. I mean, those bikes weren't cheap.
No, man.
Of course, I mean, they're not near the price they are today, but they weren't cheap by any means. I mean, and I think even you, Coop, got into the days of like the 426s going into 250R frames and motocross and stuff. And it was a game changer, like total game changer. So let us, I mean, I've got one in my garage right now. I built a brand new, it was a 2020 CRF. We put it in a Honda motor or in a Honda frame, and bike is, it's nice, man. And it's one of them deals that you don't have to do a lot to the motor. We're pushing, quite a bit of ponies right out of the get go. It's very reliable. I wish we could do it.
Right. Yeah,
it'd be awesome.
Yeah, I remember. Did you ever ride Bob's 650? He put a like 650 dirt bike motor in that. I think it was a 400. It was either a 400 EX or a 450 frame.
I thought it was a 450 frame.
It might have been. Dude, that thing was fast.
I never rode it.
It took me for a ride one time.
Bob, remember the 330 he had?
Yeah, dude, that 250R.
Yeah, it was I remember Simon Lane used to ride it over here all the time, and Simon was just one of the big, tall, lanky guys that could just ride a quad. But I remember Chris Mackey built the
426.
No, it was a CRF
That's
450.
Right. That's
It was when the 450s first come out, and they put it in it was a legger frame, and he was talking to Bob about getting it tuned in, and Bob was like, well, stop and get, a box of spark plugs and bring it over, and we'll tune that carburetor in, because back then it seemed like, and if you remember like the Cannondale days, if you touched the throttle with that bike not started, your spark plug was done.
Yeah, you're done. Yeah.
So Bob was like, well, get a box of spark plugs. And I remember Chris going, no, we'll do it with one. And Bob's like, what? And he's like, they're $58 a piece.
Oh my God.
He's like, and Bob's like, yeah, we'll try to get it with one.
Yeah.
So-
You know that bike actually made it in the magazine because that was one of the first ones around here.
Yep.
And it actually made it in at Bob's house. They took a picture over at Bob's house.
Really?
What a cool era too. Like you remember the swing top subframes, the plastic flipped up and stuff. It just you don't get to see that stuff anymore because you can't customize that quite that much anymore. So I'm here for the day that we can do that. Of course, it's gonna
be a little bit.
Well, it's just gonna separate people because people don't have that kind of money. But like the Lee brothers, I saw them. The one that's running the youth class again this year, Brody, he won the championship last year. They ran 2022 CRF 250 motors last year, and Baldwin did all the stuff to them. And I know they're pushing quite a bit of horsepower out of them. Well, this year he rolls up on it. He's got a gas 250 in there, and I'm like it's like KTM. It's the Austrian build. Right. Those things are so expensive to maintain.
Right.
Like I'm like, why did you go to something more expensive just because you had the money or what? So it's cool. It's cool to see that. And Ryland, man, he's so good at what he does. Bikes look phenomenal. But at the end of the day, I love that they roll together, roll in on a $50,000 and we take 14 and there was a couple races we were winning by 3 and 4 or 5 minutes.
That's awesome.
So,
I went to the GNCCs on a $1,500 bike and ran. I did it last year actually at Mason Dixon on a $1,500 bike, spray painted frame and all. And I was running like 19th overall.
The weird part is I know Devin has some talent. Devin can ride.
Yeah.
He's just always rode junk. And I'm like, I'm always like, Devin, like, let's build you a Honda. You got one? No. Where are we gonna get it then? I was like, we're gonna build it. No, I'll stick them on Suzuki's. I'm like,
well, I switched now.
And the results aren't changing though. We need to go to a Honda.
I mean, technically, it's not exactly fair. I only had like 8 hours on the bike anyways. Then I go to the first round and I have an issue and I have no clue what to do with it because it's a completely different bike. So I'm like, okay, on a Suzuki, I know exactly what causes this problem. On a Yamaha, no clue. And then I went and hurt my ankle. So I ran last weekend on a broken ankle. So this weekend, we're going to wrap it up.
Can't take him anywhere.
We're going to wrap it up again this weekend and go racing at the locals.
Hey, he has confidence, though. He keeps picking himself in split line fantasy.
Betting on himself.
You know what's funny is how many times would Mike come to the track, motocross track, and be sitting there like, you get a lot faster, you put a Honda thumb throttle in that thing.
Well, honestly, I don't mind the Suzuki thumb throttle. It's not bad. The Yamaha is the worst one
it is.
ever hit the market.
I put a Suzuki throttle.
I hope you guys aren't sponsored by Euromosi, but don't ever run one of them either.
Those are a
Our
death
sponsor
trap.
list is still pretty small.
Those are Mossy throttles. Those things will kill you.
Well, as I got older too, I try to little cheat things to help me out, like, so everybody's like, oh, you need to run a TRX 90 thumb throttle. And I'm like, well, okay, my thumb gets pretty tired now. I'll try it. So I try it, and we're at the first Ironman. We're on the Hoosier, and somehow I get on the throttle, and where it's shorter up to the bar. It's longer this way, but it's shorter up to the bar. It hooks on the back side of my fingers. So the bike is stuck wide open on my fingers. And I went shooting down through the woods off the track. I hit a log and thought I was dying, jumped like way up in the air. When I come down, I ended up back in the track somehow, but I T-boned some guy. And he looked back at me and I was like, sir, I don't even know how I got here. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I come back, I instantly threw that thing. Somebody asked me the other day, I was like, I want to get a TRX 90 one. I was like, I'll sell you one. I got a couple in the garage. Take that thing and far away from here. So I went back to my 04 style throttle.
Yeah.
I tried the twist throttle too, and then dislocated my thumb with that one. So like, just stick to my thumb throttle.
Yeah.
Stick to what works.
Yeah.
Now, I remember Mikey coming in the pits and just looking at the condition of our bikes, my bike specifically.
Your bike more than mine.
And shaking his head. Well, I think it speaks volumes that my bike at that point in time is long gone and yours is still around.
That's right.
Well, so like you guys had the same thing. You guys lined up with Mikey and he's looking at your stuff, right? So I've lined up with Mikey before. And he's looking at my bike like, what the hell is this kid riding?
Oh,
And I'm like,
I looked at his bike once. I was like, I'm not ever going back over there again. Like,
so I mean, how was it though? I was like that thorn in your side a lot of times. I feel like I don't know. I was like 14, 15,
when you
16.
when you were younger, like you didn't quite have the pace. You could get up there and you would kind of fade, and you really didn't hold us up much. And then I remember one race, like you were holding us up big time, and I was like, what is this kid doing? And then I kind of got out of it for a little bit. When I got back into it, of course, he was coming into his prime then. And he was flying by me, and I'm like, hell, I get it now. Because I held him up for a little bit. I'm like, yeah, you deserve that one.
Well, like I felt like when I was younger, I'd make all kinds of stupid choices. So like if I got a good start and these guys would be riding behind me, they didn't even have to pass me. They just had to wait.
Just had to wait it out.
Yeah, they'd find me over in the weeds or something somewhere because I'd do something stupid. And then what was it? Brycen one time. I was in front of. It was me, and then Wes and Mikey.
Yep, that's the one you were holding up.
So I'm riding on tires that we literally silicone shut before the race. And then we come off of this off-camber downhill, and my throttle cable got stuck wide open. And
I was probably thinking, man, this kid's finally getting on the gas.
I was like, I remember waking up in the middle of the track going, where the hell is my four-wheeler? And everybody else is gone. So
well,
it was different. But
I'm a firm believer in if you do want to make it in racing, you have to take care of your equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Coop got a little better towards the end.
Yeah, he did.
He'd send me pictures and be like, hey, is this wash good enough?
So he never said yes.
You know how nerve-wracking it is when you're not up against a guy and you're like, we're on motocross tracks, we're hitting jumps, right? And you're like, you look over and you see zip ties holding his Nerf bar and foot peg on the bike. I'm like, man, if he lands and it gets sucked under and he's like, I was like, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like,
try to get
should have been in front of me. Should have been in front of me.
Away from him as you can get. Like, just
like,
as far away as you
pull
can
the
get.
whole shot. That's all I had in my mind.
If it scared him that much, he should have been in front of me.
Oh, geez.
I put heavy duty zip ties and tie wire on ball joints before because I thought they might come loose. But I was like, well, if this does come out, at least let's have something there to catch it.
I feel like I will say though, Mike, in my defense, I feel like that last year that I ran a full local schedule, around here, I feel like I'd have done you proud with my bike maintenance.
You did a little bit better.
Of course, it took me to being married and having kids and old to do it.
Yeah,
I just try to as many motors and stuff I built. I get so many people that send me a motor, and it's like I'll be like, hey, you need to change your oil more often. Oh, I change it every race. I'm like, no, you don't. I know what a motor looks like when you change it every. Like I literally had to scrape it off the cam, like it was pasted on the cam, and if it's pasted that high, like it's not been changed for a while. So many people would call me and be like, well, this is good in that, and I'm like, what's good? And they're like, well, we don't need a crank in it, and I'm like, why don't we need a crank? And they're like, well, we've only got 2 seasons on that one. I'm like, 2 seasons. I was like, I wouldn't even put a stock piston on this thing. Like, it's going to explode soon. Like, and then they just don't understand is like, you spend the $300 to put the crank in it. It saves you the $2,000 of exploding
the head. Yeah. The head is where the money is. The head. I'll tell myself. So one time, 400EX, first bike, I was with Bob and Dave Blair, and we were down in Summersville. We go all the way down there, right, for a race. And after practice, my bike was cutting out, sputtering, and whatever. And Bob's like over there, master Honda mind that he is. And he's looking. He's like, I don't know, Brandon, what's going on? And he takes my seat off, right? And he said, when's the last time you cleaned this air filter? I was like, oh, you got to clean that?
You'd be surprised at how many people don't. And then they'll especially on the Honda, because the Honda's really bad about eating intake valves if you don't clean them. And they're like, I just put new intake valves in this thing. I'm like, well, you didn't put a new air filter on it. So we're right back to where we started. So
yeah, he took that thing off. He's like, because it had like the cover, it was a uni one, so he pulled the cover off, and he's like, see if it runs now, and it started running. He's like, Jesus, Brandon, like, you need to go find somewhere to clean this thing out.
Maintenance goes a long ways, and you'll find out that like you start finishing races, and when you finish them, you'll start getting better positions, and people will start noticing you and stuff like that. So take care of your equipment. It goes a long ways.
Yeah.
We should have like a words of wisdom with Mikey segment.
Wait till I get a couple
we're pushing our
bourbons.
longest one.
Yeah, wait till I get a couple bourbons in me. Then take those words of wisdom and don't use them.
I was gonna say, this is what we get for having friends and to do a show, because we're at almost 3 hours now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry for holding you boys up. It's been fun.
He's waiting for that sushi. He's waiting for the sushi.
No, honestly, these are the type of like I was getting ready to say, like, I don't know if anybody else enjoys, but I'm going to listen back and enjoy this, because this is fun.
Been a good one, yeah.
It'd be fun to do stuff like this more often. Just get guys in and just BS.
The stories could go for hours. Hours. I think the last time that actually I called in and we were telling stories about Dan borrowing your bike at Loretta Lynn's, and just things that I'll never forget. Like just memories that I'll never forget.
Yep.
I want to talk about a rough bike. That one has been through the ringer.
Trust me, I know. We worked on it all night the night before. So Dan could race it the next day. Like Dan's like, well, I brought Coop's bike, and I'm like, what's done to it? He's like, I don't know. So we roll out of the trailer. I'm like, I was like, all right, I don't normally work on a Yamaha, but let's get started on this thing. And it finished. Hey, and I'll give it to him. He buried that thing in the river twice, and how it made it out of there, I'll never know. But
took care of it. Huh?
What a awesome time. That was another one of those years that was super weird that they canceled the Loretta Lynn's that year because of the big flood.
Yeah.
So we were racing Loretta Lynn's at the end of the year, and Midstate was helping me at the time, and they raced bikes on Friday, and then we raced quads on Saturday, and then bikes again on Saturday or on Sunday. That was it's something that
you don't ever.
It was a once in a lifetime thing. It was so weird that we got to watch 2 dirt bike races.
Yeah.
So, that's the stuff you run into. You just,
the memories.
You never forget them, man.
Yeah, when Mike and I were on the split line official golf team at Snowshoe. That's all we did all day, just trade stories back and forth from good old times.
We'll have to mic ourselves up this year.
We should. That'd be fun. He
says no.
Not me on a golf course mic'd up. Probably not a good idea, especially if kids listen to this. It's not a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I'll say some stuff on here. Hopefully, no kids are listening too much.
I mean, we played. We played My Bike's Too Lit for the opening song. So if there's any kids listening,
I had to come late to that
That's what
show.
happens when Dad comes late.
Yeah, I came late to that show. I had to take my son to a wrestling practice, end of the season wrestling practice. I was like, you boys get the thing started. I'll be up here late. I come in, I'm like, all right, so guys, sorry. And I put my headphones, I'm like, whoa, what are we listening to?
That's something I've kind of always tried to do, even with my social medias, man. I love the kids and I love that they come out and do it, and I try to help them out all I can. And I'm not the best at it all the time. I get so busy doing stuff, but I've always tried to watch what I say here and there, just because, man, those kids, I was that kid one time. I know how much they look up to.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember walking through the pro pits and walking by Bill Balance and Chris Sports and being like, holy cow. I remember going to High Point and seeing Shane Hitt, Corey Ellis, Doug Gust.
Tim
and you're literally right there beside the guys, and like it goes a long way just to watch how you approach things and watch your attitude, because these kids, they're sponges, man. They pick it up. So I always encourage anybody, like, hey, if you're having a bad day, hold it to your away from everybody. Let your emotions out when nobody else is around. But as long as you're in the public eye, try to keep it, under control, because there's a lot of people that look up to you, even though you don't realize it. A lot of people look up to you.
Oh, so. Yeah. How crazy is it that you remember being a kid looking up to Chris Borsch, and then look at where he still is.
Still is. And people they're like, oh, I need to quit. I think he's still amazing. Even like Johnny Gallagher, man. Like Johnny could still be in the top 20 at his. I mean, he's 40 some years old.
Yeah.
Like,
hey, he took second overall in the AM race.
I'm
this past
39
weekend.
and I'm 39 and I ain't finishing second overall against them 4x4s. I'm not even beating Brody Lee on that 250. So like I just think that's like, that's amazing because you don't see dirt bikers. I mean, besides like Chad Reed, who is just immortal in my mind, like be able to do that kind of stuff. Like Ricky, the best of all time, calls it quits at 27.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, Chad's lining up at 36, 37, like 10 more years down the road. And then look at Eli this year. Eli 31, 32?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And still having, you know, one of the best careers ever. So
peaking. I mean, just about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
I think it's about time.
We can,
I better get home to the kid.
It's almost tomorrow.
It's almost tomorrow.
Well, Mikey, man, appreciate you coming in. We need to do this more often.
Yeah, we do.
This was fun. This was fun. So
yeah, it's been awesome, man.
Yeah,
It
we
really
appreciate
has.
you taking the time out tonight and coming down.
Having me on, man. It was a lot of fun. I wish I could do it a little more often. Life as a dad, you know, is busy.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to start up baseball season.
Yeah, we coach the same baseball team together, so that's always fun.
Baseball.
I can only match. My little girl played basketball this year, and basketball was my favorite sport.
Mhm.
Like it was growing up was my favorite sport, and my wife's like, you know, won't you teach her? I'm like, like she's at the age of like I want her to have fun with it. Like you do what the coach says. I will beat all your games. I will cheer you on, but I'm not trying to teach you anything yet.
Yeah.
Now, when you turn a little bit older and you like, I feel like you're serious about it. Maybe I'll try to teach you some stuff. But right now, as long as she's having fun and she's out there with her friends, that's all I care about. Because I was a kid that my dad was the one yelling at you, you know, all the time, and it took a lot of fun out of the sport. So and she's like, well, you can coach her. I'm like, nope. I was like, I'll sit right here, and I was like, I'll tell her whatever the coach says. You listen to it, and I expect you to do as he says.
Yep. See, I had to like check myself because I was that way as well. And then
you expect so much out of your own kid, because you know where you came from, and you know their capabilities.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, you just got to kind of check yourself and realize that they're still just they're kids.
I had to check myself this year with wrestling season. Like I was good with baseball, I was good with basketball, and I wasn't a wrestler growing up, but it's extremely like competitive. Like you can't do wrestling and not be competitive.
Well, and then with wrestling too it's a one-man sport, man. You don't have anybody else to blame but yourself.
Just like racing.
Well, growing up, I actually was a pretty decent little wrestler. I didn't like it. My dad loved it. And I can remember when I lost matches, I would cry. Mm-hmm. And one time my dad didn't come to a wrestling match and I lost and I didn't cry. And my mom was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I wasn't here to disappoint dad, you know, like I carried that of like, I was disappointing dad. And honestly, it was so good for me because then I started going out and winning all the time. Because like I kind of got like I wasn't a disappointment, but basketball fired back up, and I was like, yeah, we're out of here.
yeah, for sure. So one thing with you know us, you know, vet guys, these late podcasts, it takes like, you know how it takes a while to recover from a race now? Well, it takes a while to recover.
Dude, Friday, like tomorrow won't be too bad. Like Friday, I'll text him, like, dude, I'm dragging.
I've started wearing this watch that gives you like your sleep number and stuff like what you, and of course my boy he turns 1 next month and he's still not sleeping quite through the night. Mm-hmm. And I'm the type that like he makes a noise and I'm up. So last night he was up 4 times and I look at my sleep thing and like it was like 42 out of 100. I'm like, you can't. Like when I was younger, I could operate like that. I could go to McDonald's, get a cheeseburger, and you know run on nothing. And now, like if I don't get 8 hours of sleep, we're on a
It's
struggle
rough.
bus.
It's rough. It's rough for sure.
You guys can stay over there talking about yourselves because I'm not in the vet race yet. So
Well, I mean, but we don't have as many kids as you have, so that adds adds like 5 years per kid.
me and Seth Wilson had to talk about this. We said it adds like 7 years per kid. So if that's the case,
so you're in trouble. You're older than us.
Yeah, you're like
I'm already in my 40s then.
Senior class.
Yeah, I'd be 45 at this point.
Yeah. Hey, we forgot to mention last week. Brandon and I are going to be doing the
9 hour
9 hour this year. We're going to do the 9 hour Kinder race.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss.
You want to come cheer us on?
You want to come be our mechanic?
No, I don't want to be anywhere.
You don't want to work on our bikes?
No, I don't like the part where you have to do it like in high pressure situations. Like I like to take my time and turn on my music and like tell the kids to get the hell out of the garage. And just that's like my therapy.
That's your yoga, man.
So at the track, if I'm trying to do it, like I'm not. It's not therapeutic. It's not therapeutic. So
I am taking recommendations for headlight setups though.
Yeah.
Because I mean, last year we didn't have to worry about it because we started early enough that it wasn't quite dark yet when we finished. This year we're starting late enough that we're going to have lights.
Time out. We didn't. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Good thing.
You boys are doing more than I never did any kind of deep range for hours like that. And it was something I never did.
We either.
And I'm kind of disappointed because little Jonathan, his nephew, he's on our team too, and he's the only reason why we're not going to be at a vet class. So I'm like,
it's funny you call little Jonathan. He's bigger than both of us.
Well, maybe time to find a new teammate. Like, I'm just saying.
Well,
no. Tried that. No.
Make sure you take extra parts because when we did it last year, we took like an extra bike and a tote, and when we left, there was not an extra bike and a tote anymore. I had in my back tires.
We're just going to pit really close to you guys.
In my back tires alone, I had 27 tire plugs to finish the race.
My goodness.
We had 5 tire plugs in one hole.
They make this thing called tire balls or tire blocks, or even if you're hard up, there's a thing called Barbie balls.
Yeah.
I had tire blocks to start the race, and when I was done, we swept them up in a dustpan.
Jeez Louise.
I think it was like,
really? How's that possible?
Because I got a hole like super early in the race. So then it had like a bunch of water and crap that got in there.
Did you say tire blocks?
Yeah.
Yeah, the tire blocks, man, if you do run them on a flat for a while, they'll start to disintegrate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I ran like hours on flat tires.
If you ever
with
ran
water.
if you ever ran the spines, like especially the rears, about 8 races in, you almost had to put new spines in because they were starting to get tore up pretty good. Now the fronts would last for quite a while, but the rears would get tore up pretty good.
Yeah. It's good to know. I've always the blocks that I have in the bike downstairs.
Well, they've been kind of just sitting around.
Yeah, they lasted 5 years so far.
They're really
Same
flat.
set of tires you got on it. Shoot, when you bought it 3 years ago.
It really is. I mean, I don't ride it enough, right? But
rides into grandma's house.
See, here they go again. I can't even get my point out. I've always thought that I couldn't let enough air out of them because it was just so stiff.
Yeah, they're a little stiffer. That's where I like the tire balls a little better. It seemed like you had a little more control of the bike. The spines, I got used to them, but like you said, like a little more rigid feel to it.
Yeah.
So
at least I know why he's waiting to ride, hoping like old age will soften his tire blocks up so they're not so stiff.
He's going to put more hours on the bike in one race this year than what he's put on it in the past 2.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Appreciate you guys.
The motor should be good.
The motor is strong.
The seals are probably cracking.
Brandon.
The oil, it sat there so long, the oil dried up.
Hey, listen. Of the few GNCC races that I've ever raced, I got one hole shot, and that was on this bike, Mike.
Is that the one you hurt your knee?
And it wasn't because of, yes, it was the one that I blew my knee out. You were actually in that race. I don't know if you remember or not, but you pulled through the finish line, and I'm standing there in shorts, and I'm like hobbling around, like, "Hey, man!"
He pulls the whole shot, but don't get one lap.
That was that at
Mount Morris.
Mount Morris, yeah. I remember that. He built the motor
so good.
Dusty that day too.
Yeah, it was real dusty. Yeah.
Built the motor so good he couldn't even hold on to it.
I couldn't.
Motor building is different. So many people are like used to a stock motor, and then I'll build them a motor, and then they'll be like, I can't ride this thing. Like it's too much. I'm like, you got to learn how to harness it and then figure out where to use it at. And now most of the kids I build their motors for, they really enjoy, like, it's not too much, but yet it's there when they need it.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, you do. I mean, everybody raves about the quality of work, and I think that's awesome. I mean, Devin here talks about how everything's so clean, and
got the cleanest bikes you've ever seen.
Yeah, it really is.
You could
it
eat
helps
off
when you
of
just
his
put
bike.
brand new parts on them all the time. So, I'm not gonna wash out. I'm just gonna put something new on.
Hey, I have went dumpster diving at Mike's house before.
I got tickled. George, the Hickey boys' dad, I've got him to where, like, I make him wash the bikes now and stuff, and he pulled it in before they went down to Florida, and I pulled the wheel off of it. I'm like, is this dirt on the caliper? And he was like, man, I washed that. And I'm like, I'm just saying, there's still dirt on there. So, like, everybody that usually comes to the house, they know, like, do not take your bike to Mikey's house with it dirty, because he will let you have it. And I'm relentless about it. Like, I was like, hey, man, when you brought that bike over and we went to change the spark plug in it, we couldn't get to it because there was mud on top of it. And they're like, you're never going to let that go. And I'm like, well, that's just maintenance. Like, just do it.
I mean, I was cleaning my mower equipment today, and just washed my bike real quick because I knew Mike was coming over. I can't have a dirty bike in my garage.
Oh, shoot.
So,
all right, you ready to write this thing
let's
up?
wrap this thing up.
Oh,
Mike's got a long ride home, and so does producer D over there. So, Brandon, go ahead.
Oh, all right, let's do this thing. All right, guys. Hey, guys, thank you for listening. If you're still listening, appreciate it. Please
We've
share.
actually been gaining listeners, just so you know.
Really? That's insane.
This late, yeah.
Oh, it must be Mike. Mike must be bringing the listeners. Hey, guys, please, if you want to support us, please support our sponsors. That's how you're going to support us. Magna One Motorsports, dude, they're awesome over there. Go over and check them out. Title sponsor this year. So, MagnaOneMotorsports.com. Used bikes, helmets, goggles, gear, more. Trackside at any GNCC and any PG events. Magna One's Magna One Clean It, revolutionary cleaning product for your dirt bike, ATV, and anything else you would take to the track this weekend. Go over and check them out at the track website. Check them out. Seal Savers, guys. You should be running them. I run everything. Palm Savers, boot savers, UTV. If you have a UTV, you run the UV joint savers.
Yep.
If you have a shock ATV, shafts, keep them clean. You know, Mike likes a clean shaft. You know, he's like, yeah. And dirt bikes, keep those dirt bike seals clean. 25% off split line.
Capital S. Save
25% off anything over on the website at Seal Savers. Sunstar chain and sprockets, best chain and sprockets I've ever used. It's all I've ever used. Last forever. What are they made of, Coop?
Case hardened steel.
Save 30% off with the code SPLITLINE30 for 30% off anything over the website. Check them out. They're real awesome. Mountain State Hare Scramble Series starting up. Is it this weekend or next weekend?
I think it's next weekend. It's next
weekend.
New East Coast is this weekend.
Yeah,
okay, so it's next weekend.
I get to go run the number one for first time ever.
That's the only reason he's racing.
That'll be short lived.
It actually is the only reason I'm racing this weekend.
But go check them out here in a week or so. Go check them out. We're going to be off from GNCC's. Check them out. Richie and them run their awesome show over there. So, guys, I think that's it.
Yeah, episode 107. For everybody that was on the show tonight, Brycen, Neal, Craig DeLong, Mike Lancaster,
Yes,
buddy.
Thanks for having me,
Appreciate it,
guys.
man.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Episode of 107. We are out.
Peace.
Don't let me catch you fitting in. Until it's time to do outlaw. Stick to your gun.